Hey there. We would like to start by thanking some people like Nick H., Jessica Velez, Scott Abbott, George Homework Bush, Funeral City, 350 Billion Dead, and Gwillem Wogan. All of these nice people have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and gotten early access to shows, such as our new show, Orb, which is about the Venture Brothers at orb.show, or Unfilmable, which used to be a show about Lovecraft film adaptations, but is now becoming about general horror media. Boy, a lot is happening over at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Thanks for doing that stuff. Thank you.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about The Operative, No One Lives Forever, which is a very groovy first-person shooter developed by Monolith Productions and published by Fox Interactive for the PC in 2000.
Yeah, baby. My wife. Very nice. Yeah, I don't like that this is called The Operative.
No,
I don't. No one calls it that, and
Nope.
I'm not going to either.
No, I only put it there for accuracy's sake. We're going to just refer to this as No One Lives Forever, going into
Or
the future.
Nolf.
Nolf. That's everybody's good friend Nolf.
Alf's neighbor. I actually eat dogs, Gordon. Yeah. So this episode is executive produced by Joe Martin. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
This has been something that has been on our radar for a very long time, and we're hemming and hawing because you can't get it, which we'll talk about at length. And then we decided to Google it because fuck everything. Yeah. And then also, you really leave us no choice. Fox Interactive and Monolith Productions and various rights holders.
When you decide that it's not worth the expense to make sure I can play your game. It's kind of like, well, it's not worth the expense to buy the machine to play it on, so fuck you.
Yeah. Go to hell.
Go straight to hell. Don't pass go.
Go straight to hell. So this game takes place in the groovy 1960s. You play as Cate Archer, who is a British special agent working for the fictional spy agency Unity, tracking down a new terrorist organization named H.A.R.M. H.A.R.M. We don't know what that stands for. We never will.
There is a joke that it has something to do with like hair something replacement for men.
Yes,
that is kind of like an Easter egg later on. They're kind of playing into the goofiness of the acronyms of the time. Yeah. I
think that is there's a joke that it's this hair replacement thing. But then later in the series, my understanding is they do more with just nobody knowing exactly what it stands for.
Right. Because even though this is, it like takes place during the Cold War and all of that, you've got these fictional agencies. This is a parody. They say it's not a parody. They say comparisons to Austin Powers are not necessarily fair. Like, this is a comedy game that is using the tropes.
It totally is. It could not feel more different in tone than Austin Powers, really.
Right.
Like, there are parts of it, like there's like some outsized characters and stuff, but it's not nearly as broad.
Right.
And there are more just straight up scenes of dialogue, serious dialogue and such in this. So it is, if Austin Powers is too spicy for you, but you're still looking for a 60s spy parody, this might be your game.
But if one thing that you are looking for, if you say, what I like about Austin Powers is how it comments on how gender roles have changed between the 60s and the 90s. You got this here in spades.
This also does it, but from a different perspective.
Right.
It's a story-focused game. So this is a heavily narrative shooter where you kind of go globetrotting different locations around the world. You're fighting a colorful cast of bastards, both fat and otherwise. And this was made, by Monolith. You may know Monolith. I primarily know them from Blood. This has some Blood DNA.
Yeah.
And it's a good shooter. It feels like a good kind of retro shooter. Half-Life era, good movement, good shooting. Everything feels good. The pace is very similar to Half-Life. It's not quite as masterful as Half-Life. It kind of, it's much more dialogue focused in its storytelling.
Yeah.
Its priorities are different than Half-Life, but that's the closest comparison in terms of how it feels as a shooter.
I primarily know Monolith for Fear. This is literally just the age difference here coming out, I think. And also you were more into PC games in the 90s than I was. But you can see how this is kind of a stepping stone to what we would get in Fear with the combat AI and speed of shooting and stuff.
Yeah. And when they introduced the pregnant Ringu subplot, that's real. That really presages Fears.
It's hidden in some of the film reels that you can get. This is a direct prequel to that, which is very strange because that world has a much different tone. Yeah. And another thing that feels pretty similar to Half-Life about this, and is also to this game's credit, is that the levels are big, intricate, and they feel like they are modeled after real places or functional places, functional human places.
Yes, there are bathrooms.
Yes.
Immersive Sim DNA, Duke Nukem 3D, Blood kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's, I enjoy that. I don't like going through combat mazes.
I saw you tweeting about playing Blood and saying that it owns the version of Blood that you played. Is that like Fresh Supply or something like that?
Yes. That's
Gotcha.
the remake that is very, very faithful, but also, runs better.
Gotcha.
You could also get classic Blood on GOG, I think, called One Full Unit Blood.
Oh, weird.
Which I really like because it sounds like the alien from Men in Black, at a drive-through.
Take some plasma and put some red blood cells in it.
Put it in a bag. But I love that feeling of being in a real space here. I was thinking in contrast to that, I have some affection for, say, your Quake 3s and your Unreal tournaments and stuff, but those feel like the nadir of just shooter arena kind of thing. Unreal Tournament it's like the opposite of this in terms of level design.
I mean, it's designed to get out of the way and let the other players be the focus of what you're doing.
The incident. Yeah. We're in a factory that makes lava.
We're on some platforms in space with launchers. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the opposite of that. The enemy AI is pretty advanced for the time. They'll attempt to find cover. They will dodge roll. They'll use the environment to their advantage. They get ground on you a lot. A lot of times if you're being shot, it is because the enemy has an advantageous position above you. Usually
on some kind of balcony or mezzanine. Yeah, they do. They do tend to get a high ground on you, and that is tough to deal with if you are, kind of coming back to this and assuming that it will be a kind of a more standard first-person shooter fare. What is standard first-person shooter wear is your basic weapon loadout. You're not getting an awful lot of goofy stuff that'll be in the gadgets, so we're going to talk about that later, but you get a revolver and an automatic pistol, and it goes all the way up. So on and so forth through your machine guns and your shotguns, ultimately getting a grenade launcher, a sniper rifle, things like that. The usual kind of loadout that is complemented by the ability to use alternative ammunition or to use alternate fire modes.
Yes. Yeah. I find this arsenal a little bit more limited than most shooters of the time. But it's okay because you can really get by with the pistol for a lot of it.
Yes.
Like an immersive sim. This alternate ammunition thing was something I continuously forgot about on a perpetual basis. Would just forget to use different fire modes or different ammunitions. And partly that was because I did my best to play from stealth and just do headshots. But also I feel like this is maybe a little underutilized. It's neat. The status effects are neat. You can do things like damage over time. I believe there are ones that damage health directly instead of armor. But boy, and there are different resistances as well. There are items you can get that will give you a resistance to a certain ammo type. It's kind of hard to intuit which ammo type an enemy's going to use,
right?
And almost never in advance. So when you get those special items that give you resistance to like dum-dum rounds, I have no idea what kind of rounds people are carrying at this nightclub.
Yeah.
So that ended up being not a frustration, but just kind of this feels like a 60% or 70% baked system to me.
Yeah, I mostly forgot that it was there until I got shot with a bullet that had a more explicit status effect kind of associated with it. The hallucinogen that causes floating goats to appear around you.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's neat. It's almost there. I like that enemies use them as well. That is cool and feels natural. You mentioned certain weapons or certain ammo types, damaging health and armor different. We should talk about that because that is a very strange decision that they made on how to handle this. Because they have health and armor, they're separated as stats, but the way they behave is different.
Yeah, it reminds me of, with a non-regenerating shield of a more modern kind of thing in that you're still signaled so you have armor. Armor goes down first. Armor can be replenished. However, health cannot. So once your health starts going down, that's when you're in trouble. Similar to a Halo or a game with a regenerating shield.
Yes.
Except instead, it's almost like you have this emergency reserve health tank that's just serious time. Yeah. And when something bypasses it, when you run into poison damage or fire damage or what have you that bypasses it, it's serious time because that's not going anywhere.
Right.
That's not coming back. So it ended up being a thing where you were they're fairly generous with just armor pickups. You have a lot of freedom to get hit, and that is good and to be expected in a hit scan game with no cover system. But you can't be willy-nilly. You can't be entirely brave. It's not Call of Duty where it's just like take a breather and wait for your guy, all his bullet holes to close and push out the bullets.
Logan. Yeah.
Yeah, can't Logan it up.
Yeah. I only found, I think, maybe 2 health pickups in the entire game, and those were on very long missions. And they felt pretty
extremely rare.
Yeah. And of course, you got those different different environmental effects that will bypass your armor as well, like don't stand in a gout of steam or breathe toxic gas. Seems pretty, it seems like it seems obvious that it'd be bad, but it is especially bad because it takes away your reserve.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned the stealth before. As we had talked about, you can choose for most of the missions whether or not you want to approach stealthily or go guns out. Unfortunately, sometimes they take that away from you. There are certain missions where you do have to, you do have to be stealthy, or at least not. You die. Yeah. Or if they raise an alert, or if they fire a gun, you die. So the margin for error is relatively slim. There are ways in which the system is actually pretty robust and impressive, mostly in enemy behavior, and there are ways in which it falls short, mostly in feedback that is given to you.
In feedback, and then I also think rigor.
Yeah,
I don't think any of the perfect stealth levels in this game are fun whatsoever.
Right.
Which is a bold statement, but it's true. I like this game on the balance. I like it when it is a combat hallway. I like it when it is a game that is stealthy until it's not. Every single string of missions that if an alarm was raised, I failed, felt like having my teeth pulled out.
Yeah.
That's something I hate in video games anyway. I never want stealth just to mean failure. Or failure of stealth to mean failure of the game. I think that lacks imagination. And in this game, you mentioned feedback, which is 100%. You don't have a radar. You can't see through walls. You can't do a lot of things. The way that they do that, you don't even have a lean button. The way that the game handles peeking around corners is just the guy saying, well, if you're just there for a second, they probably won't notice you. And that's really vague.
Yeah.
There's no timer. There's no exclamation point above their head. There's no meter.
There's a thing that tells you like how long it will take for somebody. Certain people are more observant than others is what I noticed. Sometimes...
Is it determined by distance? Give me throw me a fickin' bone here. I'm Dr. Evil.
Throw me $1 million. I'm Dr. Evil,
1 million bones here. I'm Dr. Evil, baby. So it's just ridiculous. And then the rigor piece I think is really important because I have never in a video game, I have almost never infiltrated places that are more secure in terms of cameras. There are so many fucking security cameras in this game. Just infinite. And you cannot, until very late in the game, you cannot deal with them.
Right.
Shoot it. They very early on say, hey, shooting cameras is as bad as being seen. Shooting spotlights is as bad as being seen. And I fundamentally strongly disagree with this game design decision. Like,
Yep.
I really like, like shooting a camera, having a guard to come check it out. Great. Like raises the alert a little bit. Instant fail though.
No,
Like
don't care
you're
for
just
that.
taking away, the only tool to get past the camera is to wait or try to find the angle. And just the number of times I had to quick load because a camera was like right above the door I was exiting, or I shot a guard who had ducked around a corner in camera view, was just maddening. Like everything with the cameras in this game fucking sucks. And it's crazy. Like it's really crazy making, because when this game is good, it like absolutely sings. It's really fun, like great retro shooter. And then they're just like, no fun for a little bit. Here we're taking away your fun card. Deal with these cameras, and that's really, really frustrating. Like got my blood pressure up.
Yeah, when you say deal with cameras, what you mean is like wait for it to kind of maybe look the other direction. Hope that you got that right again, because you don't see the cone, and then walk under it. Like directly under it. Hope that doesn't expose you to guards.
Yes.
Yeah. and then wait under it for the camera to turn so you can go where you need to go. It really it throws a wet blanket on the pace of play.
Yeah, and it's only on certain levels. There are kind of basically four different types of levels, like purely narrative, combat hallways, stealth until it's not, and then pure stealth.
Yeah,
and 3 of those are really good. And one of them, which is, again, roughly a fourth of the game or so, is really pretty bad.
Yeah.
It
made
so
it kind of came down to, I couldn't imagine playing this on, we were going to make the same point. I couldn't imagine playing this on the PS2 port of this without having quick save.
God.
I wrote quick save like it was the reload button, dude. Especially for those missions.
Because it was just too frustrating not to. It is the single biggest flaw to this game.
No.
It is to me, it is the thing that stops this from being like an unqualified win and just like ultra classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird thing with as much fandom love as this has gotten, and like the way you play this is through fans creating this handy dandy executable you can just download. I don't know, fix this. Mod it. Get on it, mods.
Get in there.
Yeah,
hey, stealth, it's fun this time.
Yeah. Just, I mean, turn off the cameras or let you shoot them or do something.
Expose a variable that shows like how close I am to being to being detected. Give me a light gem. Like there has to be some kind of math going on in the background that you can expose, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is when on the missions where you fail stealth, you fail with anything. So an enemy raising an alarm, and enemies will immediately go for an alarm as opposed to fight you, which is good AI, but frustrating practically. Also on the stealth until it's not levels, the ways to turn off the alarm are pretty rare.
Yeah.
Usually in these games, the same panel that the enemy would use to turn on the alarm, you can use to turn it off.
Right.
Which again, I like because it puts you in this liminal state. So an enemy turn on the alarm, you shot the enemy, other enemies are coming, you feverishly dispose of the body.
Yeah.
You turn off the alarm and then you hide until the heightened alert goes down. It's not realistic, because it's silly for them to be like, oh, that's over, but it's more fun.
Yeah.
This is more realistic. Once the alarm is on, like you can't turn it off from the same panel. There's it feels like there's 2 places to turn off alarms in this entire world.
Yeah.
But it's less fun.
Yeah. And it also might be like a symptom of me just being used to newer games and needing to be coddled a little bit more. But like the items that you can interact with to affect change in the world, be they mission critical things or just something like the terminal where you can turn off the power to the alarm, they blend in really, really well. It's actually really hard to determine what is interactable at a glance. So again, more feedback visually in the environment felt necessary to me because when I would get stuck and I would look up, okay, what do I need to do to get through this? It would say, oh, go to this panel in this room, that is here relative to this other room. And I would go and look at it and think, I would never, ever think to press the use button on that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's a problem. You talked about disposing of the bodies. Bodies are one of like the 11 things that the AI system can notice. Hilariously, that you have corpse disposal powder, which you sprinkle on the body to dissolve it, which is actually really fucking dark, actually.
Yeah, I was thinking about how bad it would be to breathe in like the fumes that come out from that, which you do on the regular.
No lungs, please.
Yeah, I just like I breathed in this person a little bit. That doesn't seem good.
Yeah. They put this in because obviously Cate with her small frame would be unable to carry the bodies of the guards she subdued. That's the excuse that they gave. They didn't want to model carrying corpses around. By the time No One Lives Forever 2 came around, you would be able to move bodies on your own.
Yeah. And I actually like this better because you're not just like trying to find a closet.
Yes.
To stick them in. They make it a limited resource, and they have an equipment system in this game that I actually like quite a bit, where you can choose whether to take this with you. So there is kind of a nod towards expressive play in that.
Yeah.
The corpse disposal powder is considered a gadget. There are many different gadgets in this game. In between missions, new gadgets are made available by Santa, which is the game's version of Q, in Santa's workshop. And these are consistently pretty fun, even if they're not incredibly useful. Like some of them some are much more useful than others. But this is fun.
Yeah.
And takes the Sailor Moon approach, where like how Sailor Moon fights using compacts and makeup cases and stuff. So does Cate Archer.
Yeah. Like you get lipstick grenades, you get perfumes that can do different things. You mentioned inhaling the body powder. You can inhale the perfume. Like if you deploy it unwisely or at a bad distance, you can be affected by it. So if you're trying to knock somebody out, it can blow back on you. You get like sunglasses that let you zoom in and do camera stuff and spot,
detect mines.
Yeah, detect mines, freaking laser beams, all of that.
Yes. 1 billion laser beams.
This is really cool. Kind of quickly, they end up just kind of giving you alternate uses for gadgets that you already have. Like, oh, here's another different kind of lipstick or whatever. But it's pretty generous and pretty inventive for a good long time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always fun, even when they're not useful in level. It's a delight to get these between levels. Each mission you can change your loadout. So there's a default loadout that the game thinks you should have, which is not always the correct one.
Right.
And then you can substitute based on kind of slots. So you have a certain number of slots for weapons, for gadgets, you have one special item you can bring in and such. And you can change these out. If an item is mission critical, it'll be found in the mission.
Yeah.
So you can't screw yourself by not like taking the lockpicks, for example. There are also these special items that you can find that are kind of high value items that are secrets tucked away, and you can go replay levels with these items in order to get these kind of special bits of gear. These are things like I mentioned, there are things that change your resistances to certain ammo types. You can get fuzzy slippers, which increase your stealth, which I basically just kept on the entire time once I found them. But there are other ones that are neat too. There's a bandage system that gives you health resistance or things that, your actual health. There's a bunch of these. It's neat. I'm not going to replay these levels to get all the collectibles or anything, but I liked the system, on its face.
Yeah, it's pretty conspicuous when there's a place where you can't get because you don't have the item. Like very early on, there's a minefield that is a bad idea to try and cross without the mine detecting classes, things like that. I like that. I like any effort to put more secrets into levels. Like that's cool and good. I'm just not motivated to go back and play again. At the time, maybe I would have been. Yeah. You're also finding intel, like you're scored on how many of these little items that you find. They appear in all different types, manila folders, rolls of film, film reels, stuff like that. Each of these contains like little humorous text snippets about H.A.R.M's plans. These are like notes from one henchman to another, stuff like that. Generally worth, looking at for a little laugh, even if you're not chasing score. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm allergic to collectibles, but I do read them when I find them.
Yes.
The other kind of benefit to this, and this is the main thing I knew about this game before I played it. Weirdly enough, it's like almost like the unique selling point is that if you sneak around and you don't alert guards, they talk to each other, and the conversations are pretty funny in general. Sometimes there are actual jokes. Sometimes it's just the absurdity of guards explaining deep things to each other. There are elements of Venture Brothers Listen to Orb, kind of the workman's life of evil to this. That is a funny trope that works on me pretty consistently. So these were fun. I was shitty at the game's stealth, so I felt like I didn't get all of these. And in a weird way, this ended up feeling like a stronger motivator to replay it and do better.
Yeah.
Just to get more of that content rather than, chase the S rank or what have you.
This is also an early example of a game trying to make you feel bad and joking about that, like them talking about wife and kids and stuff like that.
This got me. Like near the end, it just gets more and more extreme, and it starts off with like, these guys aren't a band. That's cute, and then later, like everyone is thinking about quitting. Everyone is reconsidering their life choices, and it's very good.
I'll probably just go back to school. I don't know.
Yep, and it just said, nope, you gotta go.
Yep. Oh yeah. I think generally the game is funny and well written. The studio is pretty, self-critical. They say like, oh, we didn't know how to write a script or whatever, but like they managed to, hit the tone pretty well. Plenty of laugh out loud moments, and the game has earned its reputation for being funny, I think. Also,
I think so too.
I like the groovy aesthetic. Whenever you go to like nightclubs or public facing places, generally everything has like a really cool, like tacky 60s kind of appearance to it. Down to like planes and stuff like that.
I want to be in all of these places.
Yes.
Like mid-century, like retro aesthetic is just like really, really cool.
Give it to me.
Yeah. There's kind of a dialogue system a little bit. Every once in a while you'll have a conversation and basically you just choose sassier or not. Sometimes this is suggested to have an impact. Like you'll get, this person responds well to this. It's cosmetic. Like it's basically just what story you want to lean into. But the voice acting on Cate is uniformly excellent. The voice acting all around, some of it, I don't feel like any of the characters really sound like they were recorded in the same room. Especially our kind of fat bastard-esque villains.
Yeah, or Scotsman.
Scotsman and the Valkyrie, opera Valkyrie. Like the conversations between them are just flat line reads.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. It ends up feeling very artificial. So that stuff's all over the map. The content of the words is very good. The voice acting is very good on some of our main characters.
Yeah, I like our two handlers that we have, Mr. Smith and Mr.
Absolutely.
Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are great.
You go on a journey with them. I like that. Yeah. So you've got those enemies. They are, all over the place in terms of being over the top and incompetent. Specifically, we have like our Russian caricature, we have our German caricature, we have our Scottish caricature. Fun characters mostly.
Punch out.
Yeah, punch out level national stereotypes. What does not work is the boss fights with these guys. We got boss fights in this, and they're not fun.
Yeah, I ended up, I don't think they're very good. I did not have a big problem with any of them. So they ended up being things that I recognize were not super well designed, but were low friction.
Yeah.
For me personally. And that's not a good excuse for it. Doing bosses in this kind of like a retro FPS has always been pretty dodgy. It's harder to think of good examples of them than bad examples.
Yeah.
And these ones are weird too, because these characters are pretty built up. They have tons of personality, even if the voice acting and such isn't always there, or there's some cheap jokes. And I was really expecting something. I think what I wanted was like the boss battles from Dead Rising.
Yeah.
These like very over the top kind of set piece things that would express the personality. But both of the opera singer and the Scotsman are them standing, and you do various things around them, but they're just them in a room, sometimes with ads.
Yeah. So we'll talk about those when we get to them. It's just, it's a common pitfall for games at the time, and this game does not avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Did you read about the Unity versus H.A.R.M multiplayer mode?
I did not.
This sounds really cool. We normally don't talk about the multiplayer modes because they're usually just kind of there, de rigueur, capture the flag, deathmatch kind of thing. This sounds different, and I would have loved playing this at the time. So in this Unity versus H.A.R.M mode, one team defends a base while the other team, which is much smaller, attempts to infiltrate it and photograph intel. And that sounds really cool. And this is a couple of years before Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow did something similar with Spies versus Mercs mode. Yeah.
Yeah. I love a non-deathmatch based multiplayer.
Especially an asymmetrical one.
Yeah. So kind of talking about development, in the 90s, in the late 90s, we had Austin Powers Baby in 1997. We talked about that, 1 million Austin Powers. But there's also this kind of resurgence of 60s nostalgia through the 90s. There were all those spy films came back, the remake of The Avengers, the remake of The Mod Squad. There wasn't a remake of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I don't think, but there may as well have been.
That happened in the new 10s. Yeah. So, that was like 2016, and it wasn't very good.
The idea of a man from U.N.C.L.E. sounds like somebody's like language processors got scrambled. It's like it's a very weird phrase. I understand U.N.C.L.E. isn't an acronym, but it's just a very strange phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of the context in which this was being developed. Also, it was kind of a boom time for James Bond films, and like James Bond games too. GoldenEye came out.
GoldenEye.
Was a huge thing in 1997.
And some other games that nobody liked came out.
Yeah.
And then we all realized and some movies came out that we didn't like.
Yeah.
And then we waited for Daniel Craig to save us.
And for there never to be like another really good James Bond game again, but that's okay. Because there's other good stuff. But Monolith at this time was also in a kind of a bad spot as a studio. They had just put out a game called Shogo Mobile Armor Division, which performed okay, but fell short of their own goals. And then also Blood to the Chosen, which was released unfinished.
Yeah. Shogo is an interesting game. Shogo would be a great idea for a WoF game at some point because it's pretty fascinating. Back in the day, my early PC days were a lot of times buying dual jewel case disc games from Walmart.
Love it.
And Fallout 1 and 2 packaged together, Planescape Torment and Icewind Dale packaged together. And then Shogo was often with what is it? Septerra Core.
Oh, yeah.
I remember getting Shogo and Septerra Core, which is a shitty PC version of Final Fantasy. It's a shitty PC JRPG, but Shogo is really interesting.
Yeah.
So Monolith began work on the game and intended this to be this kind of anime-inspired paramilitary game. However, they began development without a publisher lined up. So they shopped it around. The concept changed to suit whoever they were pitching it to. And this eventually turned it into a 60s super spy thing. Originally a much more kind of straight, just Bond.
Yes. Yeah. You would play as a guy named Adam Church.
Yes.
Yeah. The studio was 2 weeks away from dying when they finally signed a deal with Fox. And that's when they started developing and showing this version. The version that was shown in 1999 is different than what we got. Also, they changed the title. They added the operative and and changed things around in order to avoid being sued by MGM, apparently. Also, people were saying, hey, it's that James Bond game, and they wanted to differentiate that. And those were a couple of factors that led to them changing Adam Church into Cate Archer. Pretty late in development, only about a year before the game ultimately came out, which is a pretty big deal because most of the script involves the main character, weirdly enough.
Yeah. Yep. Cate went through a bunch of different design iterations before they landed on the woman from the Groove is in the Heart video from Be Light. You literally wear the outfit.
Yep.
From that. So they decided they saw the Groove is in the Heart video apparently and just were like, yep.
Yeah.
Groove is in the heart.
It's very funny because like when they talk about this, they say, oh, she's based on Mitzi Martin. Like it's somebody who you should know.
Yeah.
And then you go look at the filmography and it's like, dude, where's my car? And Joe Dirt. And it's like, oh, that was she was in a very specific kind of like late 90s raunchy comedy.
Baby.
Baby.
1 million Joe Dirts. So Kit Harris provided the voice acting for Cate Archer. Originally, Cate was voiced in a Scottish accent, and there are lots of references to her being Scottish.
Yeah.
But a Scottish producer said this was too low class for the character they're going for.
Yes.
So she has this kind of Emma Frost, Emma Peel British accent.
Yeah, it's like a received pronunciation.
Yes. And genuinely really great voice acting, I think.
Yeah.
On Cate.
Yeah. So the game's technical underpinnings, which you talked about, that AI for both stealth and combat, and also just kind of visual stuff, and also the troubled pre-production led to this one taking longer than Monolith intended. They're pretty self-critical about the way things turned out, and we can talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the reception. But yeah, all of that kind of came together with this being, pretty notable. Like they, remember when game developers and publishers would talk about how many polygons their characters had?
I do. It's all of that. It actually, like, because we're about to enter a new console generation. Like any of that stuff always embarrasses me because you're always going to age poorly.
Yeah,
like
the point of releasing a number like that is to make it bigger later on.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, it's true of polygons. It's true of all of these things, but it's true of what's happening now as well. People just don't realize it. Like this is part of the graphical arms race.
Yes,
like something can look really pretty. Like you can make something look good, but using these things as benchmarks to brag about is always going to make you look like a fucking idiot in 10 years. And if you're a gamer and you don't see through that, I pity you. I pity you, gamer. And I'll cease to pity you for 1 million fat bastards. So yeah, it's a ridiculous thing. This had the most polygons.
Yep.
At the time, so pretty cool.
Good on you.
The music uses direct music technology to create this adaptive score that matches what's happening in the game. The music is uniformly excellent. It's this like 60s cool, like kind of fun jazz stuff with a lot of vocals parts of it. The actual theme song is an earworm. Like the main Bond-esque theme song is like an earworm of epic proportions. Like I have had it stuck in my head a lot since playing this game.
Well, they also put out like a B-side to the soundtrack when they released it called In the Lounge, which is like lounge music remixes of this stuff. Yeah. And those are really good as well.
It's badass. Like the soundtrack to this game is phenomenal. Super, super good.
Yeah. Craig Hubbard, the lead designer, has talked about how this game kind of came up short for Monolith. He's unsatisfied with how the stealth ended up working. And weirdly, he says, we were trying to make a less linear, a less scripted game. They were hoping that this would be more of a sandbox style thing with their intricate systems interplaying with each other. And they kind of made the opposite of that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there is some feeling of compromise to it.
Yeah.
However, this was critically lauded on release. People love this. This was called the best FPS since Half-Life. People talked about how it helped move the FPS genre forward, but it didn't sell super well. Eventually sold 35 or 350,000 copies. That took a very long time.
Yeah. Like that was in by 2002 that they did this, and like that was when they were working on the sequel to put it out. So pretty low. It didn't rise up. However, they continued supporting it over the course of the next couple of years. They put out new patches, new multiplayer maps, and they packaged everything together in this Game of the Year edition, alongside putting out these authoring tools. They released the source code, assets, and level creation tools in 2001, and this will be really important for the story of the game's distribution.
Yeah, the archival purposes, the reason why we were able to play it and you are able to play it.
Yes.
There's a PS2 port of this, which has, again, I can't imagine playing it because there's no quick save, but it does have 3 exclusive levels that go back to Archer's time as a cat burglar. These happen during times when she gets knocked out.
Yeah.
In the game, which is very funny to me. Like, in terms of pace of play, that seems like it would like really spoil it. Or you get knocked out and wake up in the past dreaming of a cat burglar and then just go back to the plot.
Yep.
That feels very staccato.
Yes.
There's a sequel, a direct sequel called A Spy in Harm's Way in 2002. That's supposed to be very good. However, there's an expansion pack for it, which I always saw called Contract Jack. Not Operation Jack.
You know, maybe I miscopied that or mistranscribed it. Maybe Contract Jack is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Which is a spin-off character named Jack, which is an acronym that stands for something. And this is widely derided.
Yes.
So much so that Monolith was like, fuck this franchise, I'm out.
Right. And if you know about No One Lives Forever, you either know about it by its reputation for being funny and inventive, having cool gadgets. You might also know it as a game that is notoriously unre-released. Like this is one of the few big games from that era that has not shown up on modern digital storefronts. No GOG, no Steam, no anything.
The people from GOG have written about this a lot.
Yeah.
Trying to get this when GOG started. This was a huge, get. There was a list of games they were trying to get a hold of, that everyone is like, you have to get. Arcanum was on there. System Shock 2 was one of them. And this was one of them. And this is one of the big white whales that they never actually got a hold of.
For frustrating reasons.
So yeah, really stupid reasons.
Yeah, so you can get this right now. The only way to do it is through basically abandonware. There is a website that you will find if you Google it that just offers download mirrors along with widescreen patches and things that will make the game more playable on modern systems. I had a few performance problems with this, specifically when I was like switching weapons. The frame rate would drop. But yeah, it's still there, and that is available primarily because of these source code releases.
Yeah, people made it, and it seems like it'd be money in the bank, because there is a demand for it. But a big problem is that Monolith has this publishing relationship with Fox. And over the years, there have been various splits and acquisitions, so that the publisher involves Sierra, Vivendi, Blizzard, Activision, and Warner Bros. And nobody who owns the rights wants to pay lawyers to figure this shit out. It's basically like a Katamari of Christmas lights.
Nobody who could potentially find out if they own it wants to pay lawyers to go through non-digitalized records to see if they own it.
To see if they own it. Yeah, it's, nobody really knows who owns it. Night Dive Studios, which is a publisher that does this, revives classic PC games, filed a series of trademarks for it. So everyone was like, oh, No One Lives Forever is coming back. This is back in 2014. But this was shot down by Warner Brothers. Yeah. So they care enough to stop somebody else from doing it.
That seems like,
but not enough to look in their pocket.
That seems weirdly unjust that that their injunction holds weight just because they say we might own this.
It's really unjust. Like every part of this feels dystopian in terms of like rights.
It's like stop everything. I might be on the short end of this, but I do not want to find out.
Yeah, I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah.
And I just it feels gross. Because it's me and not wanting to I am the Joker, gamers rise up. People I want gamers to stay down, like very down.
Yeah.
But this does feel like just really unfair, as a thing. And it's, living in modern times is this constant state of dissonance about how dystopian and like, how few companies own everything. Like you have to like sit down and watch this. I've been watching Treehouse of Horror for October, and I'm like, oh yeah, Disney. Oh yeah, Fox. Like you just think about it. It's like, oh yeah, this is super evil. And this is one of those really concrete examples. Like it's not more evil than Amazon not allowing people to be, but it is. It's boy, what an absurd world we went and built. We really fucked it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
not going to make it. Don't deserve to make it. Yeah. Like it's really fucked it up. This is just.
This is a symptom that at some point, somewhere down the line, somebody wasn't watching the fire.
Yep.
And it either went
Yep.
out or it spreaded. I'm not sure which. Spreaded. Hi.
We didn't start it. It's been turning since the world's been burning, but you know.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just like this is not ultimately a big deal because we can get a hold of it, but it does.
Right.
It feels like a canary in several coal mines. Like it feels like a canary that's like working overtime.
Yeah. The alternate part of this, if you don't want to be bummed about it, you know, there are two sides, to bright side it, which I know is irritating. A fan community has been able to keep this alive, and that is good. And there has not really been, like Warner Brothers can go after Night Dive, but there has not been substantial action taken to take this down, this fan distribution. Even if there was, it would just pop up elsewhere. So that is good.
Yeah.
Also, like, this is very rare that this is happening. Most of the time, these, these older games, do end up coming out in one way or another. This is just an especially egregious example. Where it kind of where it kind of didn't work out in our favor.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
kind of two sides of the coin there. I can see a reason to see this a little bit as a triumph as well.
Yeah, I mean but it's also kind of an exception in some of those things. Like
Yes.
Nintendo is constantly shutting down every single fan thing, and that Chrono Trigger fan sequel and all that jazz. Like the Super Metroid or Metroid 2 remake, all that, there are a lot of bad examples too. You can look at it either way. I feel like we're on a trajectory of misery.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of consolidation and
I,
horseshit.
I don't think things are getting better. Yeah, so let's get into it. We open up with kind of a little at the base mission here. We're going to come back here in between the main missions. This is called the assignment. With a little briefing here. Unity's agents have been killed off by this unknown assailant, and we need to go to headquarters to get a briefing and go through some training.
Yes. And before that, we get this little mission of a cutscene where, a man in a trench coat is standing by the road in the middle of a snowstorm, shot in the back. And we find out this hitman, this guy with an eye patch and a mustache, drops a rose by the body. He also kills a safecracker who is breaking into a consul's office. And an agent Helsinki. So people are dying, and there is this calling card.
Yes.
Eye patch, dropping a rose at the body.
It is a lily. I
Yes.
wrote that wrong in the notes.
Oh, yep. I could not remember the flower because weirdly this stops paying off. Like this feels like it's going to be very important.
You stop finding roses?
It's not. We didn't talk about this in the generalities. This game is certainly 40% too long.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is super endemic of games of the time too. I associate any game that came out between 97 and like say 2004 as being like 20 hours long for no reason.
Yeah, just content bombs. And when we were doing this and we're looking at how long it is to beat, it didn't take into account constantly restarting,
right?
Because of the stealth missions. So this was a little bit chewy to get through.
Yes.
Even though I didn't on the balance end up enjoying my time with it, like. And the reason why I bring that up in relation to this rose is that because the plot does meander a bit. This is not a focused story about this guy. We're going to get back to this guy a long way down the road. After this first kind of opening arc with him.
Yes.
So we're introduced to Cate Archer taking a shower. It's finally something for daddy. And it's not right for daddy. She answers a phone call, and it's this colleague named Bruno.
Right.
They go out to dinner. Bruno is great. The voice acting is phenomenal. And this is meant to be like an old James Bond.
Yeah.
A retired kind of, typical British super spy.
Yeah, he's suave and he's supportive, Cate is very unhappy at Unity. She is the first female agent that they have hired, but she's not advancing quickly or getting interesting assignments. Just basically kind of being backbenched when she knows she can accomplish more.
Yeah, lots of wiretaps and shit.
Yeah.
As they go out to dinner and kind of talk about this. so Bruno just says be patient. They end up at Unity, and we meet our people here.
Yes.
Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones. And Mr. Smith just screams villain the entire time.
Yeah. Well, he's an asshole.
Yeah, he's a huge asshole. Like, he's just, Cate is insolent. Worse than that, she's a lady. Bruno vouches for her, but he's past his prime.
Yeah,
and then Mr. Jones here is much more soft.
Yes.
And stresses patience. I love these two archetypes. This is also really good voice acting. And they're kind of back and forth, and the development of the relationship and where it ends up is pretty good. Really great characters.
Yes. Something that comes up here that I should have gone back and kind of revised the notes, because it's laying things down here further, is that, Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones, they are both agents who don't do field work anymore. They got, as they aged up, they got promoted out.
Yes.
And Bruno has kind of refused to do this. And there is a lot of friction, at least right here, between Bruno and Mr. Smith, just kind of about that fate for all of these operatives that Bruno is kind of bucking, right?
Yeah.
That'll come up much later, but it's good to lay the to lay the track for it right now. So Unity has lost 7 agents in 10 days. Leaving us with a very shallow bench, which means that Cate's being brought up. The only explanation for how and why this could be happening is that there is a traitor in their midst. There's a mole. Yeah.
And they're really laying the groundwork for it to be Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Right away. And they'll continue to do so. So Bruno nearly got Volkov. Volkov is our assassin, we believe. And one of the nice little bits here is that whenever somebody comes up, Cate has read the file. She's got like Lisa Simpson energy, which I really like. When Bruno almost got him, he only got him in the eye. So that is why he has the patch.
Yes.
And it is believed that Volkov is working with H.A.R.M, but they don't know very much about H.A.R.M.
It's new on the scene.
Yep. So you go to training, and like every FPS of the time, like introducing you to WASD, basic movement, weapons, and introducing our first few gadgets, the Barrette, which is our lockpick / poison injector. The poison injector ends up actually being a little superfluous because you can knock out enemies with a kung fu chop to the back of the head.
Yep.
So I did not get a lot of use out of the poison. The coin, which works like it does in Hitman, and then the corpse disposal goo that we talked about.
I just love that it's a powder. Like, it's just a little vial of powder.
Yeah, what happened if a live person drank it? Like, what if you made a Kool-Aid?
Yeah, like just here's my carnation instant breakfast.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oops, no stomach.
Yep, no stomach, please.
Powder stomach.
Yep. Phenomenon stomach.
Yeah. So we go to our. Sorry, that took me a second. Fuck you. So this takes us to our first mission, Misfortune in Morocco. So we have to protect this American ambassador to West Germany, this caricature named Morris Monroe. He has been marked for assassination by H.A.R.M. And he's kind of a Mr. Magoo type. Like he is very nearsighted, basically will not protect himself. He is almost dead, and we need to kill these assassins before we kill Monroe. It's an interesting thing to do.
Kill Monroe.
Yes, before they kill Monroe. It's an interesting thing to do for your first mission, because it feels a little bit like a way to onboard people who've never played a mouse-based first-person shooter before, because you're mostly stationary for the first part of this. You're given an option for Bruno to call out where the enemies are coming from, so you can shoot them out. But like for the first half of this mission, you're not worrying about moving around and taking cover and stuff. It's just literally shooting enemy. It's a shooting gallery. And you occasionally move to a new perch.
It's a really weird and as far as I can think of, singular in this game gameplay mode change. Like it almost feels like a mini game. It's all done in engine, but it's the only real breakup.
Yes.
To the kind of sim systems based kind of thing where like it's randomized. So Bruno will be like balcony on the left, and then sometimes he'll just go balcony on the left, balcony on the left, balcony on the left, as like the enemy, as it keeps re-rolling the same location as guys walk out, stand, slowly prepare to shoot this guy. It's really silly. It feels like an arcade game.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's real weird.
Yeah.
And they seed a very, I want to say a subtle theme, but it's like, you know, the less charitable part of me is like, this doesn't pay off that well.
Right.
About how shitty spies are.
Yep.
Like were you surprised that ended up being a big part of the ending?
I mean,
of this, like, boy, spies are fucking suck. They're dipshits.
Yeah. Talking about like the how important the difference between a spy and an operative is.
Yes.
It felt a little Kojima-esque, like
Yes.
where we have, you know, whole games that are pervaded by the subtext of what it means to be a soldier, actually.
Yes. Or be a partner.
Yeah.
You know, like right in the heels of RE5, like it is ridiculous. Because, you know, Bruno dropped some information about a previous mole that sold them out for only $50. And the idea that spies are cheap, desperate morons who will sell out everything for just like comically small amounts of money is a pervading theme in this game. And I was just like, it was somebody on the staff's like ex or old roommate or something was a spy. Like, this feels personal to me.
Yeah, it's really gonna twist my thumb in that eye socket. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you walk into the room, don't you walk in and be like, hey guys, like, don't you guys hate spies? You know, and just like crickets. You know, you gotta work on your Type 5 monolith.
Yeah. No,
nobody can relate to your material, man.
It's not relatable.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Something else that this that Morris kind of establishes is that most of the people who are being taken out are very like high class people. Not that Morris is especially classy. He's coded as like a, you know, an oil billionaire or a simple country lawyer. You know, he talks like Foghorn Leghorn. Yeah, he's a stereotypical Texan.
It's incredible. This is very fun. Like this character is very fun.
Yes.
Here.
And it's hilarious because like when he moves to a new place and like when he stops, it's because he puts a coin in his pocket and it falls out a hole in the bottom and he goes looking for it. Yeah.
And there's this weird thing where for somebody you ask him for the time and he thinks they're asking for his dime. He's like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's got this incredibly special dime. I say it's so he gets away. A bunch of assassins rush your position here. So we're now in a shooter mode. There is another kind of underbaked mechanic in this is that certain surfaces or certain materials are easier to shoot through.
Yeah.
Which they tutorialize and then use for the first level, and it kind of goes away.
Yes. Yeah.
For a game this long, it definitely feels like there are some major things that drop off the map in terms of mechanics.
They just forgot about it as they were making the levels. Yeah. Yeah. So Volkov is here. So you have to shoot your way through these hallways to get to Bruno, who of course is radioing you, criticizing you for being late. He's kind of pinned down. And this is kind of the first instance where you find conversations between the hitmen talking with each other or like berating staff, like they're very poorly blending in here.
Yeah.
You know, like
they're all wearing a fez like Will Ferrell.
Yes.
In 1 Million Austin Powers, baby. But these are fun to fight. This is the fun shooter times. You know, so as you get to Bruno, you plot your escape. Volkov shoots Bruno from the mezzanine. And to stop you from following him, his men have taken hostages and set up bombs.
Yeah. So
you have to go rescue the hostages and defuse.
Yeah.
And rip Bruno. Our boy.
Yeah. Rip to a real one. He's gone. We can't even stick around to make sure we recover his body. We have to get out of here. The bombs are not timed, and the hostages, the hostage killings are not timed either. You just have to find the people who are taking them and then shoot them before they shoot the hostage. Yeah, this ended up being one of those things where I really wish that there was a waypoint or something. Call me lazy or what have you, but I hate passing by a thing that I need, getting to what is the end of the level and not being able to proceed because I missed a thing way back toward the beginning. And then going back through the entire level again, looking for the one thing that I missed. That is not fun.
Shitty design.
Yeah.
And the feedback you get is very vague. When you get to the end of the level and there's still something to do, Cate just goes, I still have work to do. Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah,
okay.
all right.
Like I can't see the list of my objectives. I don't know where that's at. So yeah. So that's a problem. We need to make our escape. We're going to follow the plan that we had. We need to get across the city and head for the coast. When you get there, you find this passed out hitman. You can either interrogate him or head off to the coast. Like, this implied that there would be more variance in the missions. I decided to interrogate him because I thought that would be the funnier option than just proceeding. Did you interrogate him?
I did interrogate.
Yes.
Yeah. But I tortured the shit out of him.
You did.
Yeah. It's just like, I want to, I wanted to get in the spirit of the year 2000 when torture was funny and it wasn't something that we really recognized that our government did all the time.
Right.
Like a pre-GTA 5 environment. So it was like going crazy with that.
Yeah. So I want to hear how the torture works. If you ask him questions, you can just ask him nicely 3 times. And he says, I'm not going to tell you. After you ask 3 times, he's like, oh, that cliche. You think I'm just going to magically tell you after 3 times? And then you get into this point where, like, to get information out of him, you have to play against his ego by saying, oh, you probably don't know anything anyway. You're so low ranked, you probably didn't even get to be around Volkov. And if you do that enough, then he will spill the beans for you.
We get to Monroe yelling at the driver about the music he's playing and how it's immoral. And it's, obviously it's not. He has hearing problems. He demands to get out of the car, and then Volkov rolls up and shoots him.
Yes.
So mission failure. We cut to nighttime, and we're on a city near the coast where we're still pursuing Volkov. And we need to go down these canyon pathways to get the smuggler's hideout. And this is a snipey zone.
Yeah.
One of the 3 main weapons you get here, you get like a silenced pistol, an unsilenced pistol, and then a carbine that has a zoom. Not silenced at this time, but it still works really well for sniping.
Yeah. You've got long views. There are enemies in snipers' perches, which is pretty good. Yeah. I always like games from this era and how they try to approximate being outdoors. That it's just a different kind of corridor. It's very fun. That is quite fun in Clive Barker's Undying as well, the way that they approximate that. Yeah, but it's a good section. Good section here. You've got to get to the coast. You reach the hideout, and you have to get through this compound. Get into this compound by going through the sewer. Like, there's a little hut that has been destroyed nearby that has an open pipe in it. And this is kind of the final dungeon here. And recognize we're still on the first level here. Like, these are divided up into individual scenes, and how varied this has been so far.
So you get into the compound, which is tough. Lots of enemies clustered. So it's hard to do this stealthily. If you hit one of them, it'll alert the other ones. Lots of ambushes.
Yeah.
And they use automatic weapons, so your armor will go down quickly. Once you get past them and get to the coast, the escape point, we see Volkov swear revenge on us.
Right.
Setting up an antagonism that will be weird and mild, and we're going to take backseat to a couple other colorful characters basically right away.
Yes. Yeah, so we go back to the HQ for a segment called Requiem for a Spy. Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones debrief you. Smith makes the mistake of bad-mouthing Bruno. And even implies that Bruno might have been the mole, which is a pretty dick thing to say about a respected. Good.
He implies it, but then Mr. Jones says also there's some evidence. To it, and this is he's playing. This will pay off in the end, but he's backing him up at this point. So it seems like maybe he is. And it's like you don't believe it, but you later when you confide with Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones rather, he says that there is some evidence to this. Largely, Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith rather berates you for failing. You didn't protect the target, and you lost an agent. And that's going to be a theme for a while. Yeah.
And spoiler, you are failing every mission, but it's because you have been set up. They've all been traps. Yes. Every single one of them. Yeah. So our next mission and the kind of the next little leg of the game, next fourth of it, is going to be to go into to go in and aid an East German scientist named Schenker in his defection to the West. He has been working on weapons. He might be associated with H.A.R.M, and he can provide us with good stuff. To get his location, we're going to need to meet with a series of contacts who will each give kind of an incomplete piece of information. And you also need to arm these charges to blow up the facility and photograph some research documents. So again, lots of things to do.
Yep. We learn about our new gadgets, the glasses that operate as Google Glass that take camera pictures, the lighter, which has a blowtorch, which is for more advanced locks, but also obviates the lockpick basically right away.
Right.
And then the lipstick grenade, where you push down on the lipstick part and you throw it as a grenade. And we learned about my bane, which is security cameras. The first level with security cameras.
Yeah. And they're only going to get more numerous.
Yeah. They're propagating. They're basically replicating like nanomachines at this point.
Yep. Conway's
they've
game
learned
of
to
cameras.
Make love. Yeah. So this begins the mission Berlin by Night, which starts as a non-combat section. When you're in the streets, finding these informants who you say your opening phrase, which is like, do you have the time or do you have a light? And then they do a really, really gross pickup line. This is a good joke.
This is good. I like this.
And then you tell them like, and then they apologize for it.
Yeah.
They're like, please know that I didn't actually mean that. Like they just told me what to say. I think it's really gross. They respect women.
Yeah. These guys in crypto really need to get a date is what one of them says.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. And it keeps on going throughout the game. I just love the idea that all of the people who do the cryptography for Unity are just these very, very frustrated nerds. Is good. But as you go and talk to these people, you learn, okay, the entrance is hidden in the basement of the library behind the shelf. Cool. There's no library out here. We need to actually get into this gated facility that stores and makes these biological weapons.
Yep. So you bribe your way to get in at the beginning, and then this is our first combat until it's not mission, and it's stealth until it's not, and it's not.
No.
There's a spot in this. There's like a specific choke point where there's a gate, and then like a little auto shop kind of zone next to it. You have to go inside the little guardhouse and push the button.
Yeah.
I could not get the guard to leave.
Right.
If I shot him in the head, it set the alarm off automatically. I don't know what psychic saw that. I tried to sneak up on him and knock him out. Did not work. There was like nothing I could do to get past this. It just turned into a combat thing, and it was very frustrating.
Yeah, I had the exact same problem.
And this is the first one where it says, turn off the alarm. And I kept going up to alarm panels and trying to turn them off, and that's not it. Like, there's a weird readability problem with switches in this game.
Yes.
Where alarm panels are only used for guards, and all switches look exactly the same.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's a gate switch, an alarm switch, or what. So this was frustrating. I ended up mostly playing this as just like, a Half-Life level. Like I was just shot everything.
Yeah.
Because what else was I supposed to fucking
That's
do?
mostly what I defaulted to, and it's very good that the shooting in this is actually tight and snappy. Like you can get pretty far by like just murking people at a distance with your silenced handgun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, you need to turn off the alarm. You have to open the gate to get inside. Regardless of how you get in, you have to sneak around, activate the bombs, and then find the documents. Again, I'm not going to harp on this every time, but sometimes you miss one and you have to go back through the entire level, which increases the chance that you're going to get caught, especially because most of the targets are in these small rooms with cameras. Right.
Yeah. And I definitely was caught, and I just eventually just killed everyone so I could have my run of the place.
Yes.
It just made me think that you should drop Cate Archer anywhere and just turn to a ghost town like the Neutron Cate Archer. Yeah. So we find our contact, who only appears after we've found all the documents. He gives you an ID card. They'll get you to the front of the lab.
Right.
So we can go into the lab. This is mostly hallways. There are guards and cameras that'll alert on you through here, but it's not automatic failure until eventually you find Schenker in the facility. He can't believe that Unity sent a woman. He's rude at first, grabs a photo of his wife and comes with you. There's this weird thing because they just gave me a grenade for this mission, and I was like, what do I use a grenade for? And it's for this because 4 guards come in at once.
Yep.
And I used the grenade and it took care of it. And it was a very like key-shaped grenade and lock-shaped guards kind of scenario.
Yeah, because all of them have automatic weapons and will plink you down very, very quickly. So this is an escort portion of the mission. Thankfully, Schenker actually has a self-preservation instinct, which is nice. The second there's any hint that there is violence or shooting, he like takes a crouched position and he will not approach it. So you can go deal with it, and he will not start following you again until you go back and activate him. That is very smart, and I wish that more people would have paid attention to that design decision.
Yeah, agreed. So this moves us into a little mini mission, Unexpected Turbulence, where we have to interrogate Schenker. We get our briefing says like, hey, he doesn't respond well to direct questions or people who are skeptical. I don't know that there's a failure instant for this. Like, you just have two options, one of which is the obvious right one.
Yeah. I probably on one of these should have just done a quick save and, tried to fail it to see what would happen. Regardless, though, you can pump him for information.
Yeah. And we basically learn his whole deal. His wife died in a lab accident. He works on biological explosives, which are chemicals that turn people into human bombs. My boy bomb.
Yeah.
And the depending on the population density, this will create bigger explosions.
Yes. Also, bigger people make bigger explosions. Yeah.
Yes.
So this could be a problem because this is a poison that turns, regular humans into
Fat
WMDs. Fat men. Yep.
Yeah. A legion of podcasters deployed to West Germany, and just Miko and Will roll up and just fucking end the Cold War.
Doing our duty for America. Yeah. So there's a second plane nearby. We caught a little glimpse of this guy. But our first main villain, who is not Volkov here, the Scotsman, Magnus Armstrong.
You say Scotsman, he's dressed up as a Spirit Halloween costume of a Scotsman. Like he actually is dressed up like Scrooge's arch enemy. Glomgold.
Yeah, he's wearing a kilt. He's wearing the flat cap. He's got a big cigar in his mouth that has a grimace, and he talks like Shrek. So he's hitting all the marks here. But the Scotsman commands, hey, we're going to board the plane. We're going to dock with it, hijack it, because we got to get our scientists back. Yeah.
Yep. We fight up to the cockpit. It's this huge luxury jet, of course. So there are multiple floors and stuff, like the kind of planes you can only fight on in, video games.
In this kind of game. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get up to the cockpit, you see the pilot is dead and the Scotsman knocks you out. He's encouraged to kill you, but he won't kill a fellow Scot without a specific grudge. Right. You're clearly not Scottish in this, only narratively.
Right. It's part of your background. But this establishes that Magnus has a certain honorable stripe in him that we're going to take advantage of later on. So they search the plane and then cut it loose. When you wake up, you have this very cool little like set piece kind of thing here where you have to get off of the plane. You have 1 minute to get out of the plane and jump out before it all blows up.
Yeah. And then there's another kind of like little mini game here where you have to borrow a parachute from a guy. I found this very frustrating.
Yeah.
Just because, so if you shoot the guy who has the parachute immediately deploys and you lose.
That
doesn't
makes no
stand
sense. To reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I should be able to shoot. And also I was like holding W to try to move closer to him, but you can't really fall faster, even though you can in real life. In the game, you kind of can't. It's this weird thing where you are falling slightly faster than him.
Yeah.
Just through, I don't know, magic. And you just have to wait it out. What this is a shooting gallery where you're shooting eerily accurate skydiving agents who are trying to kill you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't present as such. It says like, get to the guy with the
it presents as something
parachute.
that is more active than it actually is. And what it actually is just survive for this amount of time, and then when you're close enough, like navigate to be near him, and then the mission will end.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why you can't shoot the guy with the parachute is because you need him to die in a humiliating and painful manner. If he died before you took the, painlessly from a bullet to the head, that would be too merciful for Cate Archer.
No. It needs to be played for comedy that, Kate will, land gracefully as she parachutes down, and he will crash into a barn while screaming, "Please be full of hay! Please be full of hay!" Yeah.
Yep. It's not full of hay.
No.
And later when you do your mission debrief, they ask how you survived. Yeah. And you say, I borrowed a parachute. He had a family, and we'll learn about those families later.
Yep.
So you get chewed out for botching this mission as well. We learn about that Scot, Magnus Armstrong, who is this very tough soldier and criminal known for being a brawler and demolitions expert.
Yeah.
And we find out that West German's customs have found a shipment of these chemicals aboard a Finnish tanker in Hamburg. This is probably where the kidnappers are, and we need to go rescue our Schenker.
Yes. Yeah. We can't go alone because we have botched every mission so far. And who they are sending with us is just a parody of an American named Thomas Goodman, whose model, I swear, was designed to look like Superman.
I think he looks like a Halloween costume.
He does.
Like his rictus grin, like looks like when you would wear a Superman mask and a smock with Superman's face on it.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm Superman. I'm Superman at dinner.
Yep.
Like it's he's very like everyone has like a kind of rictus face, like Magnus does as well. This is where it got uncanny and strange to me.
Yes.
I find Thomas Goodman very unnerving.
Yes, he's very unnerving, and that maybe is to a purpose because he ends up double crossing you, and he's not actually Thomas Goodman. You're supposed to not like him because he is extremely chauvinistic about this too, while also being like, I'm Guy Good American. Let's go in and all of this. He's not very subtle as a spy.
Yeah. And eventually you kind of get a better relationship.
Yes.
With this guy. And then there's stuff about it. When, after you leave, Smith says to Jones that your reports are too colorful to be true. They read like adventure novels, drawing a little underline, and we get our sedative perfume as a gadget, which can affect us.
Yes.
And it has a surprising range for a perfume.
Yeah. It took me a few failed attempts to not knock myself out with this stuff.
Yeah. Which is true to life.
Yeah.
Like I would immediately knock myself the fuck out if I had adventure perfume. So
I would use it in a poorly ventilated space. Down I go.
On purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like sleep, man. Have you ever tried it? It fucking owns.
Yeah. Want to get there faster.
It's great. You're not awake. Yeah.
This takes us to our next mission here, Rendezvous in Hamburg. We need to go and we need to meet up with Goodman, our Guy Whitey American dude. He's not very subtle. He will stick out because he is wearing very loud shirts. It starts with us having listening in at this extremely long conversation between a young man and a bouncer at a club. Kind of like saying, just him, the young man trying multiple tacks to get in, and the bouncer not letting him through.
Yeah, his girlfriend's in there.
Yes.
It's really weird. It's just like, that is not my problem. Like that is between you and your girlfriend. It's very detailed.
Yes.
A woman in line through sister solidarity will distract the bouncer so you can sneak in through the window. We get in, we get our cutscene with our second kind of mini boss lieutenant character.
Yes.
This Swiss Miss. Style large German woman who's singing really horribly off key on stage.
Yes.
This is Fraulein Wagner. An agent calls her off stage and they talk about how you got in.
Right.
And talk about their plan to ambush you in the restroom.
Which is good that you have this you have this information, because that's how we're going to move on to the next part of the mission. You can go in. You need to check out the manager's office before Goodman will spawn. And when you get there, he's patronizing, of course. I didn't realize I was going to have to babysit on this assignment. He even calls Kate a women's libber, which is that is just calling somebody a women's libber is very, very antiquated.
A libber.
Yeah.
Yeah. Libbers.
Libber. Oh yeah. But he is with us now. Our first order of business is to shake this tail, who has been coming. I'm not talking about dancing. There's a dude who's following us. And we need to lure him into the restroom to interrogate him. As you walk away, Kate feels a little sting on her neck. Yeah.
Yeah. You got hit with a dart.
Yeah.
This will pay off a long time down the road. It's very obvious. I think that they're kind of counting on the player forgetting this.
Yes.
So it can be played as a thing, but I don't know, man. I can't imagine forgetting getting drugged.
Yeah.
You know, a dart in my neck is not the kind of thing. If that's ever happened to me in my whole life, I'd remember.
Yeah, like a neck dart. Like I would write, like I would put that in the Christmas letter.
Yeah, it's a bottom 5 days for me, dog.
But times haven't always been good. Back in October, I got neck darted.
However, mittens had kittens, and, you know. So you go to the bathroom, you know, as this kind of cutscene as you take out this guy. At the same time, terrorists break in the club,
right?
And you have to shoot your way back to Goodman. This club looks awesome, great, like super groovy design. And when you get back to Goodman, he says a contact of his will meet up with you behind the club. You need to tell him that you're with him, and his code name, which is Bold Eagle. That's very good.
Go to hell, dude.
Yeah, big Venture Brothers energy to that. But when we get out in the alley, an agent shoots the contact. So you have to improvise. Yeah. Sneaking by these searchlights that have snipers at them in order to get into this barge in the canals.
Yeah. The path that he sent you through, like through the back of the club, had just tons of soldiers in it. This is important. Like he sent you directly into bad stuff. So we need to stop by this safe house in Bremen as we're going up the canal here to rendezvous with Goodman and report there. Kate will call Mr. Jones and say, like, yeah, Wagner, Inga is her first name, is apparently this super distant relation to Richard Wagner, famous composer who inspired the Nazis and also did other things.
Gabriel Knight too.
Yep. And she fell to a life of crime after she failed at becoming an opera singer because she didn't have any talent.
Yeah. And this is a very funny joke. This idea that the reason why she's got this club is that all these beatniks feel like it's avant-garde. Yep. Like she's up there doing metal machine music and she thinks she's doing real music.
Yep. It's
like,
very good.
Cute.
And like everybody's talking about, like, I don't understand why there's so many people here. This fucking sucks. They don't say this fucking sucks. That's my own spin on it. That's that's why I would have written
it. They say it groovin' sucks. So this is where our lighter gets the welding implement. I got it before it was just a lighter.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated with myself that I forgot about the lighter function because I forgot about it in game as well. It's actually this huge mechanic of causing distractions by lighting waste bin fires.
Yep.
I also consistently forgot about this, which is mostly my fault, but also is only intermittently useful.
Right.
And very useful in the mission that like shaved years off my life in this game. Like the mission I hated the most.
Yeah.
We can now use it as a lockpick.
Yeah.
Obviating the lockpick.
Yes. And we also get timed explosive lipstick grenades. Didn't find an awful lot of use for that. I can see ways where it could be.
Yeah.
It was good with it. It was good to me that the lipstick bombs exploded on contact.
Yes. Agreed. On our way out, we get the first of 3 foreshadowings of this Charlie's Angels type group of 3 groovy women talking about how they're bored. This pays off in a very weird way.
Yeah, they don't get names. Like they don't get a story. We don't know why they're there.
So we just kind of get a little scene of them, and then we're on to the next mission, a tenuous lead.
So we need to meet up with Goodman at the docks here in Bremen and board this freighter. When we get on there, we need to find the captain's manifest and photograph any suspicious chemical containers. We're not going to be able to do this.
Yes. There's a weird thing that happens in this game since you're failing at your missions where they'll give you an objective and you can't accomplish it.
Right.
I actually really like this. This kind of mix between, as a player, I'm like, oh, that's what I have to do to move forward in the game. But the game moves forward anyway.
Yeah.
Which kind of, suspends my disbelief in a way that's like kind of pleasing.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So we open up on this dockyard section. We're fighting some agents who are dressed as workers. And trying to get around these tight spaces that have got a ton of steam coming out of the pipes. Classic.
Yeah. When you get there, you run into Goodman. He berates you for being late. He's going to do a distraction. He planned some time bombs, but when you're late, he deactivated them. Yeah. So he has to actually go and activate them. When you get in the warehouse, it's not super densely staffed as you're going through activating these time bombs. The last bomb is on the other side of this dock, and it doesn't look like you can get there.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit of spirited hopping to get over there without falling into the water. I couldn't find a way to get up when I fell in the water.
No, yeah, you're just kind of done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you meet up with Goodman and you watch the warehouse explode. he says, hey, I'm going to go on and do the mission on my own because I don't think you can, get onto the ship. She points out that his shirt is very unsubtle. His approach is not going to work. He's wearing this very loud neon green shirt, which he takes to heart and believes that the green is the problem, not the actual pattern and bright color.
Yeah. And also, like, Cate Archer is not particularly stealthily.
No.
She's the grooviest in the heart lady in this.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, D-Light's here. So you get through the warehouse. We ride this crane that unloads this cargo container from this train, carries over to the ship. And we get this short section kind of navigating these maze section of cargo holds.
Right.
There's a great little bit of music thing here where whenever you shoot an enemy, it goes like, bow. It does like a big spy hit.
I love that.
And it integrates really well into the soundtrack. Like, cannot talk enough sugar about the soundtrack. It's extremely good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
But when you get to this bulkhead at the end, you get knocked out by Magnus again.
So a little bit later, Heidi and Magnus, who is quite drunk at this point, they're arguing about why Magnus didn't kill Kate. Again, he's got this, they got this code of honor about not killing a Scot. And they're cut short by this explosion elsewhere on the ship. And they order everybody to abandon the ship. You, as Kate, wake up in this dark room, and you need to get off of this thing as the liner is going down, and you don't have any of your gear.
Yep, you can reclaim it. You don't have to, though.
Yeah,
you can get done. This is the first instance where there are weird little like puzzle-y things that require you kind of non-intuitively shooting.
Yeah.
Or activating things in the environment. There's one later that is much tougher than this. I thought, like, really confusing. But this is tricky. Like, you get to this point where you have to shoot this pipe to flood a room so you can get higher. And it's just not very, like, we talk a lot about the commentaries for that Valve does. Yeah. You know how they use light to point you at things. This could use a little bit more of that.
Yeah. It's like the thing you have to shoot is a little valve handle in a corner that looks like all the other valve handles. Many of which have also been leaky, like this one.
Yeah, I've been passing them by constantly.
Yeah.
This is also a good time, we talk about that signaling. Doors you can open and doors you cannot open are not signaled. Yeah. But I really do love that, like, whenever you go to something you can't open, you just do this, like,
you just knock
like this very like polite little knock. And you're doing it on bulkheads and stuff too. It's very cute. But yeah, this is a weird little puzzle thing that is like feels a little immersive simmy. Like it feels like a little bit of what they were going for in terms of a system focused thing, but didn't, it doesn't quite match. It feels like it doesn't match the rest of the game.
Up to this point, I've been shooting people and trying not to be seen. And things that it needed to interact with have been like levers in the environment that'll open a door. Like getting to this, probably 4 or 5 hours into the game. When I've not been asked to think about like, okay, raising water levels and stuff. I had to look this up. I had to look up and see what I had to do here.
Once you get through the hatch, you have to close it behind you so you don't drown. And you run down the hallway as the hull is like starting to crush inwards until you get to the bridge. You haven't photographed shit, but you do get to activate the radio, which puts a tracking beacon.
Right.
And that's the end of the mission.
Yeah. We go to headquarters. We get a cutscene here of this ridiculously English gentleman kind of like placing wagers like with this group of people, like about who can tell which cigars are Cuban,
Extremely British.
Yes. And the commissioner, everybody, refers to him as the commissioner. He walks in and of course he belches, and not just because he is aristocrat heavy, but like, just belches. And a man with an eye patch, he talks about like, oh, this guy with an eye patch, he stuck me with the tip of his umbrella, and said au revoir and handed me a lily. Is that a bad sign, you guys? I don't know. And then the house explodes.
Yes. Just kind of showing us that people belch. This is the foreshadowing that when you become a boy bomb, you belch first.
Yes.
We get training with scuba gear here, which is pretty standard. The spear gun, which is just a projectile base weapon here.
Weirdly useful outside of the water. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still useful. And then a belt buckle grappling hook, which is very underused.
Yeah.
There are only a couple different places it could be used. And again, it's one of those things where like, I feel like if this game was reduced down to its component parts, Like if there wasn't as much space between me using this, I would not forget that I had it.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a thing where I just get to a dead end and be like, fuck, I haven't used the belt buckle in hours. Like, and then I would have to use it.
Yes.
It's just kind of a function of the game being a little bit too long for its pace.
Yeah. Also, it's not a very good grappling hook. Don't give me a grappling hook and then make it bad, please.
Yeah. It basically is just an elevator. Like it just goes, and then you're there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we learn how to use the scuba gear to go on the mission called the Dive. Your initial mission here is to, we start above the water. We need to go to this hotel to find Goodman. Turns out Goodman, the dick, was responsible for blowing up the ship. He blames you for not getting the intel that you need, even though he blew up the ship. He blames you for not doing it fast enough before he blew up the ship. Maybe you should, not blow up the ship when your partner's on there. Podna.
Yeah. This is a cool level though.
Yeah.
I like this quite a bit, even though I love how this is one of the most aggressive games for fall damage of FPS. Like, man, Kate goes down quick from a fall.
Yeah. Brittle
because
ankles.
room service shows up. Super brittle. Bitter ankles. So these hitmen show up who are disguised as room service. So you have to escape out the window into the roof, and we had to fight through this like cool, Austrian looking hotel.
It's Oktoberfest. Yeah.
It's Oktoberfest. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
Kind of going rooftop to rooftop, climbing into these attics and vents and stuff and trying to pathfind.
Yeah.
I really like this.
I like it quite a bit. I love the incidental dialogue of the revelers who were all, terrified that there's this gunfire going around. That's great. I like passing through the storage rooms and the kitchens and stuff. Like something that they do very, very well is like having the public facing portions of these levels and then like the staff portions. I wanted to comment on that back at the club in Hamburg, how like the front of house is all groovy and stuff, but you get in the back and it's just all shitty and dingy and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a good level. I like this a lot.
Yeah. So you continue through past all these things, going rooftop to rooftop. We get this little cutscene where a henchman explains to Wagner that Kate has gotten away. And she's like, oh, what should your punishment be? And he goes, well, you could electrocute me or burn me alive, but the worst thing in the world would be to be deprived of your motivational concerts, ma'am. And she's like, oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
It's a cute little scene. And then she decides, no, that's too harsh. I'll electrocute you.
Yeah. Well, no, she decides I'm going to electrocute you after she hears him celebrate that he's not going to have to listen to her music anymore.
Oh, yeah. Like she starts to walk away and overhears him.
Yeah.
So we cut over to there are these like nice cinematic cuts. Like we don't see them go out to this. It's the next day and they're on a boat. They're talking about who should go diving here. This is this setting up this Kate and Goodman. Kate angling for the missions.
Yes.
Wine, put me in, coach, and Goodman hanging back. So Kate's the one who's going to go diving, and we do this underwater section, which is surprisingly like painless as well.
Yeah.
The underwater mechanics in this are just fine.
Yeah. It's the only time you do it. Like you're not really going to have to mess around with that too much outside of the beginning of this next mission here, or one of these upcoming missions. I like the cutscene before this because Magnus, when he's sending the agents in, he says like, "Hey, if you find my bottle of Lafroig in there, can you please grab it?" So Magnus has good taste in scotch.
No, he's Scottish.
Well, yeah, of course. So when you're underwater, like, you go in and you take your photos. It's pretty easy to find what you need to get to. The way out changes, not just because you are dealing with more than just sharks. You've got these scuba agents who are coming in, but also like the wreckage shifts. And the way you came in is not the way you're going to be able to get out. I had a little bit of confusion here, mostly because I forgot that I could swim up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You can also kill these sharks, and you later cannot kill sharks. There's very specific sharks without frickin' laser beams, and they are not able to be killed. These ones, though, you can kill to your heart's content. They're not endangered yet. So you make your way back. Kate gets back to the boat, and Goodman says he didn't see anything about the divers on the surface. And you're like, why didn't you warn me? There were guys down there. He says he did not see them.
Suspiciouser and suspiciouser.
So we get another little story cutscene at HQ, where Kate goes to the war room and the H.A.R.M is sent a video in which a puppet explains their whole bit.
Right.
They orchestrated this explosion in Monte Carlo. They'll do worse. Their man's not meant. It's very detailed. The first bomb will go off in a week. If, for every hour after that, we'll do this. We've infected so many people, et cetera, et cetera. And they give these really ridiculous demands.
Yeah.
It's like, $1 million or whatever, the continent of Australia, and an international holiday.
H.A.R.M. Day.
H.A.R.M. Day, every day. And then they point out, it's like, Kate points out, because she's a sharp cookie, like, no, they knew we weren't going to be able to do this. They wanted us to give them the money and then still be able to do their terror.
I don't think Australia is ours to give.
Yeah, I don't think it's anyone's to give.
Right.
I don't think Australians really own it. There were people there.
Yeah.
It was already owned.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So it was like, they want us to fail so they can justify doing more bombing. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that we're dealing with that, we need to figure out who they've infected, like who are the patient zeros that they've sent in. We need to figure out the antidote, and we've got to get Dr. Schenker to help us kind of put all the pieces together here.
Yeah. And this is the literal fulcrum on which the game kind of turns for me a little bit.
Yes.
Because the next series of missions is absolutely dog shit. And a huge bummer.
Yes.
We get training on this stunning perfume that we have, which should be useful for this next segment, but I found not useful. And then a mechanical guard dog extractor that's incredibly cute. Little robotic dog, Flipsy, that walks up and makes little hearts come out of guard dogs.
Yep.
By spraying pheromones.
Yeah.
Which in real life would just give that dog a gigantic gross boner that would cause the dog to have sex with the machine.
Yep.
But in this, it's just cartoon hearts, which I appreciate because I don't feel like animals should be allowed to have erections, and when they do around me, it is a crime.
If I could pass a law about it, I would.
Yeah, that's my harm demand. Yeah. I don't want the continent, replace the continent of Australia, give that back to the Aborigine people and the native people there, and then just make it illegal for a dog to get a boner around me.
Yep.
Because almost nothing makes me more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
So... like a fucking WiiWare shovel game where I'm shooting the boners off dogs with my remote. Carnival Games 4. Let's fucking go.
Like that RoboCop scene.
Big dislike.
Oh, God. So... but we get those tools. They're going to be, they're going to be useful. And just kind of the next series of missions is going to be following up on this corporate lead. So the chemicals that we were looking for were not on the ship. We need to, we figured out that they were being stored and distributed by this, by this company, Dumas Industries, which is led by this, business monster named Baron Archibald Dumas. So we need to go speak with him. It doesn't need to be violent, but we are going to have to get into his office. And this takes us into a man of influence. This mission sucks the stars from the sky.
Yeah. A series of missions.
Yeah.
That are all pretty bad.
Right.
Big dislike.
Yes.
Yeah. So we need to find out what the Baron knows. We head in with Goodman at the receptionist. The receptionist outlines his schedule. He only meets with people for 10 minutes on Fridays. We poison her. We slip something into her coffee to give her crippling diarrhea so we can get into the office.
Yeah.
And you have this section with Goodman where you kind of rock, paper, scissors or whatever to see who goes in. And you go in, and this took me a billion fucking tries.
Yep.
I lost count. This is so hard. The number of quick saves and reloads in this because you have to sneak around this office that is more secure than anything. There are cameras everywhere, and if you get spotted or cause any alarm, the mission fails.
Right.
And I just didn't feel like I had the stealth tools for this.
So this should be systemic. Right. It should be okay, if I can plot my path through all this, I can go and, get through. There are things that you need to do to make sure that you are not spotted that are extremely prescriptive. Like if you manage, like I did, if you manage to get to Archibald Dumas' office and, you press on the desk set to open the secret passage to his real office and you have not disabled the alarms, it'll trigger an alarm. And that'll end the mission. Yeah. I had no idea that there is a security room that you had to get into that has a guard in it that will not leave unless you light fire
Set a fire.
Yeah. And like, there's like a little bit of, stuff in the intel that you pick up around here. But like up to this point, most of all of the intel has been fun little fluff that I enjoyed reading.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very much so. Like it is very, to put a mission critical hint in the midst of like, just an avenue for jokes.
Yeah.
Is pretty frustrating. Getting this guy out of the thing. It's also just the geometry of getting him out of there, because the area he's in, there's a camera kitty corner to him. There's a secretary around the corner and a guy who goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Between two offices. So even like where to be while he leaves and checks out the fire is difficult. And I cannot count, again, a lot of my tries of this were trying to use my brand new stunning perfume to get in there, but it creates this gigantic cloud, so you can't really sneak past him. And once someone is stunned, once they're unstunned, they set off the fucking alarm.
Yeah.
What is the point of this fucking perfume?
Why give it to me now?
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
I hated this. Like I got really upset.
Yeah.
At this, I had to take multiple breaks.
Yeah. It's no good. And you have to get out too. Like you get to the top, and you have the Baron's office, which is like a room that's almost like in a fishbowl, and you have guards patrolling around the top. So you're not in the clear once you get into the room and look at the miniature of the chemical plant or whatever. Like you have to somehow deal with these guards up top and then get back out. It's a little bit easier because by this point you have disabled security, but that does not stop the patrols that are going to like be around the bottlenecks that you have to go through. It's a lot. They are placing demands on you that their system cannot live up to, and making you feel like it is your fault for failing.
And half the cameras, making enemies, putting enemies further away from alarms, like just making this place a little less secure, since this is supposed to be their front.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about this is like the idea, and like, I was thinking of this in a Shadowrun context.
Yeah.
The idea that this was pretty easy to get into, and then once you get into the secret, the secret layer, like that's where the real security is. But there's really not a feeling of a difference between them. Like there are more armed guards, but your consequence for failure is just as high. Or, in this first section. Very frustrating.
And like there's a version of this that could be really good, just as like a non-combat breather level, where like, oh, you're in an office. That's strange.
Yeah,
you don't really
you get a cover story as a temp.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of go around and get into stuff. Like that would have been way cooler.
Yeah. It didn't have to be hateful and demanding like this.
And later there's a thing too that gives you the cover story that doesn't work.
Right.
Like it works for everyone except for guards and cameras. Fuck you. Yeah. This series of mission is so frustrating. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So we start out, once we get this thing, we make our way out, and then we go to this chemical plant. We argue about who will go inside. We flip a coin. Kate wins. Given what we find out about Goodman, it's like, well, what if she didn't win? Goodman tells you your orders, which is what you've already kind of been doing.
Yeah.
So we have another stealth section that's slightly less hateful here. If you lose, an alarm goes off, but you can kill people and kind of stop this from happening.
Right.
And continue to move on. It's not instant death.
Yeah. This level is pretty well designed. You have free reign of the plant. You have to find these 3 ledgers, and they're all on these very obvious spokes off of the main motor pool, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get through, like, you have to do a little bit of, like, conveyor belt hijinks to open up your path, but it's not terrible. And it's the last time it's going to be not terrible for a little while here. As you go to leave, she sees Magnus. He is discussing some things with the plant foreman, Mr. Jones. As you are listening to him, he says, "Hey, we need to speak with the Baron because he might be uninvolved in this. Like this might all be happening under his nose. The mastermind could be someone below him. We've heard his schedule, which is all like leisure time, basically.
Yeah. He could be a stooge.
Yeah."
So we do another mission now where we're going to do a little non-combat mission. We'll be on a coin flip to interview him. We sweet talk our way past the butler saying we're from a magazine called Men of Influence, and we want to interview the Baron for the Perfect Living series of people who live perfect lives.
Yep.
This character is also very fun.
Yep.
because the Baron is a safari hunter who realized, why go to where the animals are when I can bring the animals to me?
The part you want is
so he
the
has,
trophy.
Yeah, you want the trophy, so why not just like, and it's not like you don't just buy the trophy. You just bring the animal here in a cage and then hunt it.
Yep.
In the cage, and you can either fluff his ego or you can challenge him on this stuff.
Yeah, I love like asking him like, what books do you read?
Yeah, it's good. I was asking him softballs because I thought there would still be consequences for failure.
Right.
During this, but I watched a cutscene of the hardball questions, and it's pretty fun.
Yep. Shooting the pandas in pens is more honorable than just buying them outright.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been hunting pandas in Bristol, and like wasn't aware there were pandas in Bristol. So we can get anything overnighted. It's very good.
Yeah.
But the important piece of information we get is that he's very hands off with the company.
Yes.
Most everything is just paperwork. They keep that in a safe. He won't provide any more detail in this, but it does seem like to find out how involved he is, we need to get into that safe.
Right. So we go back to HQ. We determine, hey, there is a second in command named Damascus Valentine. This is very obviously a pseudonym for Dmitry Volkov, again, the person who killed Bruno and who we've been seeing offing other people. Just a reminder that he exists. The plan is to go into the Dumas corporate headquarters by descending from this nearby tower that's under construction. And we go do our training for this code breaking gadget, which is just something that'll unlock keypads. Takes a little while. Then we also get these thermal sunglasses. I was hoping this would let me see enemies through walls. No, this just highlights freaking lasers.
Yeah, it would be cool if it did.
Yes,
because this game could really use that.
Yeah.
And the keypad thing is a little bit disappointing. They make a big deal out of it taking a lot of time. And they say that like sometimes you might have to set it and then set it and then go hide out.
Yeah.
By the time I used this, I was always safe. So it just was a time tax.
Yeah. Also, it was I hope you remembered to grab this again after it was done, because you may need to use it later. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll show up in a mission if you don't take it with you.
Yeah.
But
you can leave it on a number pad.
Yeah.
And have to go back and get it. Yeah.
Yep. So we get another little foreshadowing with our Charlie's Angels, or board Charlie's Angels, and begin the series of missions. And this is better.
Yeah.
Immediately better than nonsense. Like there's a boss fight in here that's not great. But I do like the series of missions more than a Man of Influence. These are called Safecracker. And we begin at the ground level of this skyscraper that's under construction. We get on top, we have to get to the basement and turn on the elevator. The default loadout for this includes a crossbow. The crossbow is really fun.
Yep.
In this. Totally silent, so much so that you can shoot somebody right next to somebody. And they just investigate the body. Like, what happened to you, man?
Ooh, extremely sudden nap.
Yeah. Yep. Surprise naps. And it's totally silent, which this silenced pistol, they make a big deal of saying like, it's, as loud as someone knocking on a door.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to cause panic, but it's not silent.
Right. Yeah.
Like a real silencer.
Love this crossbow. It's good. Yeah.
Really good.
So as you take this lift to get up, this is when you stop and do your boss fight against Inga Wagner. And we get our fight with her here. This ended up, so just a warning for people, you're probably going to have trouble with this, because for me, at the very least, the frame rate dropped to nothing. Like maybe 5 frames per second or something like that, which also affects your input. So like activating the things that you need to activate to make this happen, like to get through this, ended up being pretty frustrating. I have no idea why. I tried changing settings, but it was a problem. She's here. Yeah. She's in her Valkyrie armor, and she will try to attack you with her sword. And also she has ads who are shooting from the floor above her, and she is invulnerable to weapons.
And she will sing.
Yes.
If you get close to her, she'll sing and it bypasses your armor.
Yep.
Which is cute. The ads are really annoying.
Yeah.
The way you kill her is turn off the radio that's playing her backing track. And her ego will not allow it to be turned off. So she'll go turn it back on, and you flip the circuit breaker to electrocute her 5 times.
Right.
It's very Nintendo, do a thing 3 times boss fight.
Yeah.
And I did not have the frame rate problem. So I didn't actually find this that difficult. just to kind of tank through it. But
Yeah.
I could see how that'd be frustrating.
Yeah. Like, I was bummed because of the boss fights, this is probably the most fun, I think. Probably.
Well, it's definitely the one with the bigger gimmick.
Yeah.
The third one is just really just shoot. What if you shot a guy?
Yeah. What if you shot a guy across a chasm? Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking ocelot shit. So eventually once you kill her, we can continue forward. We're gonna kind of pick up the pace just a little bit.
Yeah.
In these, I think is probably a good idea. Just because in terms of really notable kind of encounter design, there's still some little bits of it, but this is kind of the point in the game where it did start feeling like I kind of stopped noticing the like super good level design, like feeling like, oh, this is great. With a couple of exceptions.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next part is that you're still in the construction area. You've got to get up the top of the tower and swing a crane over so you can descend into the next one. It's a lot of ups and downs, and it's a lot of like hope you remembered that you have a grappling hook kind of stuff. Getting those targets. Yeah.
And recognizing the grapple points.
Yes.
Like they're not super well signaled here.
Yeah.
This is like a graphical fidelity issue. Like other games that would have, I always prefer a freeform grapple to a grapple point system. But if you're going to have a grapple point system, I want it to be like, Tomb Raider 2016, where it's like a very obvious piece of wood.
Yes.
Or something. Once you get to the rooftops of the tower, you need to go through the HVAC systems to power up and ride a window washer to get inside. Once inside, you find the safe and you must gather at least 8 pieces of intel. These are randomized. Where this game uses randomization is very interesting. So it's just kind of walkthrough proof, and it basically just says you have to get through the whole thing.
Yes.
To get all the stuff. But getting out is very frustrating.
Yeah. So, you've got to, man, I just like the elevators don't work. Like you have to activate them in security rooms. And again, you've got just these panels that are not necessarily very clear, what they are. Just problems. Like you've got to, put a code breaker on this thing that doesn't look like any of the keypads you've seen before. Yeah. It's really bad signaling. Don't care for it, even though I like the office itself. Like the office is designed to be like, obviously they have way too much money, kind of like the what is it, the bad guys in XCOM. Like when you go to their office and it's all a bunch of like trophies. Yeah,
it's Professor Xavier's house.
Yeah.
Once you get to this kind of last section where we're getting to the safe, we learned a little bit about the safe, and it has a section with frickin' laser beams where it releases poison vents. You put on your glasses and you have to do this little dexterity challenge, and the last little bit is impossible to get past, so you have to go through this vent. And when you get through, to the end, you photograph the documents. The game cuts up to you meeting with Goodman in a rooftop garden, and there's a little like standoff thing where Volkov puts a gun on him. There's some back and forth about if I were you, I would shut up. Americans think you can talk your way out of everything, and Goodman ends up dying.
Yes. And Kate gets away. Kate has gotten attached to Goodman. Yeah.
She's grown accustomed to his face.
We get to an interstitial here. Kate is trying to process her grief. She's at the firing range, and she has a flashback to the death when she is called to the war room. That interrupts it here. Kate and Mr. Jones, they talk about, just all the people around Kate who have been dying. First Bruno, who was kind of her mentor, and Goodman, who she was, coming to respect. But then Mr. Smith comes in. They've analyzed the photos from the safe, and we learn where Dr. Schenker is being held.
Yep. It's underground base in North America, but we don't know exactly where. And we need to find and interrogate this train engineer who might be on H.A.R.M's payroll. So we have to go in, escape by train by detaching the caboose near the lumberyard. And then the final little bit we learn is that Baroness Dumas has changed her name recently.
Yes.
The wife of Mr. Dumas. Her real name is Felicity Farnsworth, and she's the daughter of a disgraced politician. And Kate knows her because they had similar backgrounds.
Right.
This is not really
This
They
isn't
don't either. Like
highlighted.
they say it a lot, but it's not like we're not so different, you and I. Like, I could have turned out to be you bit. Like, there are a couple of themes in this that don't really fire off. One of them is that spies fucking suck. And the other one is that, like, you know, if it weren't for, you know, for slightly different choices, I would have become you.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, a time-tested theme, but like, I don't feel like there's a lot to it here.
Yeah. They really do not lay. So ultimately the Baroness ends up being the mastermind behind all of this. And her motivation is to like get back at the high society that kicked her family out and caused her to live in poverty before she married back up, you know? Cate also used to, you know, have a wealthy family, but then they lost everything. Yeah. So like we get one glimpse of the Baroness and then we get her background here. And then she ultimately is the person who is responsible for everything.
Yep. And we get training for a couple new gadgets. The camera disabler, which I wish would have been in the game from the beginning.
Yep.
An acidic perfume. Seems dangerous. And then vehicles.
Yeah. Guess what? We got a motorcycle, baby.
Yeah, we got motorcycle baby. And there's snowmobile baby. AKA Santa baby. There aren't a lot of motorcycle scenes in this. Like when it comes up, it's fun. I wanted a little bit more vehicle stuff though, because I think it, you know, fun to be on a motorcycle, go vroom vroom.
It's also part of the genre, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Vroom vroom is James Bond as ladies and, you know, murder.
And drinking too much. Yes.
Drinking, vroom vroom, pussy.
Vroom vroom pussy is my favorite Bond girl.
Yeah. Like, Octo vroom vroom. Q, I'd like to go vroom vroom on this, may I? And is it time to go vroom vroom? Yeah.
I can't one up that. I don't know what vroom vroom means in this context.
That means going on a motorcycle. Go vroom vroom. Go fast.
Okay. Go vroom vroom.
It's like how trains go choo choo.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Speaking of trains. So we're on this train. We've got to find this railway co-conspirator, and then learn where the entrance to the facility is to get inside and find Schenker. We've got, you know, open up on these two agents talking about how there might be a spy on board. You know, one calls the other a moron. The other thinks that they called him a Mormon, and why would that be an insult? Just weird little just shtick. I misheard you. Yeah. Okay, Mormons.
There's lots of good shtick that we're not highlighting.
Yes.
Also, it's just worth noting in all these things. If you're managed to stay stealthy, there are funny conversations.
Yes.
I recommend everyone who listens to this who wants that kind of supplement to go on YouTube and find a best of.
Yes.
Which there are extant.
Right. So you start in the kitchen car, and like what you end up having to do is go up and down the train without being spotted in order to find this in order to find your contact and then find the H.A.R.M agent. And the primary person who's going to give you a problem is the ticket agent.
Yep. You can eventually find a ticket, so you can present that.
Yeah.
But this is kind of fun, like seeing him checking tickets down the way and trying to find a place to hide.
Yeah.
I dig this.
Yeah. I like it.
You get to the part where you disconnect the caboose and roll up to the lumber yard. This is a little industrial dungeon. Before you get to the other side, and we hop on our motorcycle. The motorcycle is this kind of stop and pop section through the mountains where we can stop and shoot guys from a distance.
Yeah.
Which is fun. You know, dig it. And once you eventually dead end in this rock and have to climb this tower, and you find a hidden door while a helicopter is firing on you.
Yeah.
Here. So very genre.
Yeah. Very high genre drama.
Yeah. High spy.
The underground base that you get into is not really anything special. You know, you have to get your way into the security room to get an ID card that'll get you into the lower level, but just hallways and basic stealth. I believe that there's no penalty for being spotted, so I went through guns a-blazing because that's how I like to play this game.
Yeah, it's not until later. The next level where you will fail for stealth is when you're in the villa.
Yes.
And you're shadowing the Baroness.
Ugh. Yeah. So you find Schenker, and he says, yeah, all of this has been carefully coordinated by H.A.R.M. And the mole who was within Unity. Like, even, like, arranging my defection and getting Unity involved. And then, you know, like all of that was a part of getting Schenker here to work on this stuff.
Yep.
So the conspiracy goes all the way to the top.
Yep. You have to escort him out. There's this room with electrified pads on the ground.
Yeah.
That looks real goofy. But once we get that, we are through.
We get an interstitial here. There's a man in Schilling. He is standing outside of his house. He belches and he blows up, killing 1,300.
Yep. Sad.
Sad.
Sad. I hate that our president has taken away my ability to just say
yeah, I know.
Sad at the end of sentences because I really liked it.
Say, oh, it's a real bummer, dude.
Yeah, it is a real bummer, but I don't really feel like these video game deaths are a bummer.
No.
You know, so I want to just be able to like move on while acknowledging fictional human death.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's doing that in real life. Like he's moving on really quickly while acknowledging actual human death. Mm-hmm. But this is no one lives forever, not, you know, the United States of America. Am I right?
Right. Yeah.
Anywho, so Schilling is the hometown of the Baron's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So Cate has a suspicion that the victims were entangled somehow.
Right.
She's, doing the cork board in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the H.A.R.M puppet gives them a message that says they did this explosion in retaliation for the rescue of Dr. Schenker.
Right. Schenker says he has no idea how the poison was distributed. There is an antidote that is available. However, it is so unstable that it needs to be produced in a zero-G environment, which means that H.A.R.M has space capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. H.A.R.M's going to space. So we need to go up there and get the antidote. Mm-hmm. Cate and Mr. Jones talk for a little bit and talk about their code name for this mission, which is going to be Fox and Fox Hunt. Mm-hmm. This is because Bruno gave her that code name when he was hunting her for her crimes.
Yes.
And we learned about the mine detector function of our sunglasses. There was a minefield like many levels back.
Yep.
Which we can go through to get a special item if we want to replay the level.
Yeah. But this just highlights the mines. We're going to pass through one minefield and that'll be the end of it.
Yes.
We get to Trouble in the Tropics, where you open up, you're in this underground base, you have scuba in. I can't look at this and not think of Metal Gear Solid, actually.
No, sure. Yeah. As one does. Mm-hmm. It's hard to think of it as a reference since it's so late in the game. Yeah. But that is what it feels like.
Yes.
You know, Metal Gear, the influence of Metal Gear is such that it has colonized the idea of scuba diving into a base.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the opening here, it's a nice, easy little section. You have to find and destroy this radio before riding a lift up to the upper level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We get a cutscene where some H.A.R.M employees are bickering about hiding the bright orange crates from passing airline pilots. It's kind of underlying the genre silliness.
Yes.
Their crates are very conspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
There's an outside section where you're going through these tropical canyons dealing with sniper nest. Mm-hmm. At one point, we had to cross this rickety bridge while we're under fire from rockets and grenades.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually travel through this river and grapple up into a wastewater pipe in order to get into the mountainside.
Yeah. This takes us to our next big set piece, because the wastewater pipes take us into a missile test silo. We're like in the blast pit beneath this silo that they use for rocket tests. They're going to fire it off. You have 90 seconds, and to avoid being incinerated, you have to sabotage it. So you have to go and weld the locks off of these 4 beams that are holding the rocket in place. And then the crucial second point is you need to be under the water when the rocket blows. It's not enough. Yeah. It's not enough just to sabotage this. I got cooked 4 times, I think, before I figured out what I needed to do. Yeah. More times than I should be comfortable admitting.
You do end up successfully sabotaging the launch, though, which blows up and opens a path forward. And this lets us go into the launch facility. This is another area where you cannot cause an alarm somewhat arbitrarily, and you don't have a silenced gun with you unless you did that specifically for your loadout. The default thing just gives you the spear gun. Yeah. So you have a slow projectile weapon as your only silenced weapon.
Yeah. But you have to get in deep enough to eavesdrop on these 2 scientists to learn that there is no antidote in the base. We're going to have to do it the hard way.
Yeah, we have to go into space. The one place that capitalism cannot survive. I love the design of the space station.
That's so good.
We've been through a lot of space stations on this show. And I couldn't help but compare it to the space station from Wolfenstein. And how much this is way cooler.
Oh yeah, like the one in Wolfenstein is all like Art Deco kind of stuff, which is fine and has its own charm. This is like ultra groovy and has like a neon covered space bar.
Yeah, I love it.
Like a lounge. Also, all of the color, all of the sectors have their own color assigned to them, but it's not just like red, blue, or anything. It's goldenrod, periwinkle, burnt sienna.
Yeah. It's very funny. Yeah. Like it's all super groovy. You know, go to the taupe sector. Very fun.
I don't know why that joke works for you, but it really does.
Oh, it's good. So you steal an ID card at the bar. Head upstairs to find an atomic laser gun, which is going to be our weapon for this. It bypasses armor.
Yep.
It's extremely good. You have it and enemies have it. So this is like your glass cannon level. Jesus Christ. Glass Clannon. Sorry, I said Glass Clancy. This is your Glass Clancy Evil. You know? Ooh.
You're
Been recording for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm I'm working on it.
Yeah, we're all working on it.
Yeah,
don't worry, don't feel bad.
Isn't it great how like now that you have two cats and like how animals like when a dog is shaking off how they can do that full body vibrate thing? Like humans don't really have an equivalent to that.
No, we don't have.
Like that's what I want to do is shake my head and and just do that.
Yeah. No, just
but when we do it, it's motorboarding. When we do it, we get kicked out of an airplane.
Yeah.
So
you could do like the Three Stooges like slapping at your own face and wiping it like.
Oh yeah.
That yeah.
And I could get a healthy amount of sleep.
Come on. What?
Yeah.
Do you want the moon
uninterrupted
as well?
Sleep. Yeah. Are you out of your mind?
So to get a sample of the antidote, or at least enough to be worthwhile, you've got to go up to the security sector at the very top of this, and then take an elevator to the secret labs. It's real heavily guarded. Everything here. There's a lot of awful lot of like pass fail kind of stuff. Once you get beyond the joy of the groovy space station, like you have to pass through this umbilical where like a bunch of meteors hit the tube and cause everything to come apart. Like it's a bunch of instant death kind of things later on.
Yep. Big bummer.
Yeah.
Eventually we do get the antidote. But the elevator to the escape pods is broken. So we have to jump up the shaft support beams in order to grab a pod. This is an area where you have to use the grapple to get up to the top of this. And I had no fucking clue that I had to do this. I had forgotten about the grapple completely.
Why would I need to grapple in space?
You know, it's a good question, it seems.
Yeah.
So this is frustrating to me, but eventually I did get up.
Yeah.
So we get to this little HQ segment where Shanker says the antidote is valuable. Kate is focusing on the Baroness, whereas the Baroness, it turns out she's gone skiing and she wants to follow her hunch. And Mr. Jones supports you, Mr. Smith does not.
Yeah.
We get a training on snowmobiles, which are very similar to motorcycles. And then we get our Charlie's Angels, who are bored still.
Yeah.
In a joke that I assure you does not pay off.
Nope. Just these are mini bosses that you will fight, and there will be no comment about them ever.
Yep. So. They do not have names or voices, barely. So
yeah, they're just bored. Yeah. So we go to Alpine Intrigue. The idea here is that the Baroness will lead us to a list of H.A.R.M's intended poisoning victims. That's Kate's hunch anyway. We start out, we have to do a tailing kind of thing. You know, we have to talk with an informant about the Baroness's routine. And then she takes this gondola up to a chalet.
Yes. And then we have to do the tailing thing, which again, nobody likes. Nobody, follow, but don't follow so close behind thing. It's horrible. And it's a weird thing that like, somebody, I complained about this on Twitter at some point, and somebody did say they liked it. And I don't know if that's a function of Twitter contrarianism or it's just the Rosetta Stone that explains why these things happen, because it feels like somebody has to like it, even if not a player, like a game designer has to think these are cool, right? Because they were so the style at the time and still sometimes now.
Yeah.
And I just don't, it's like when we did Crash Bandicoot and someone's like, oh, I love levels where you run towards the camera. It's awesome. And I'm like, I hear the words that are coming out of your mouth. Like I understand those. It's Yahoo Serious and Young Einstein. I know what those words mean, but that makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's a little bit of something like maybe like the first game that did these, and I couldn't tell you, like the first time I really noticed them being a problem was like Assassin's Creed, was like maybe it was something that was done almost out of necessity, and then it was emulated because people saw, hey, here's this very successful game that did this. Similarly, like even games that do not need to have you like scrunch through a tight area, or in order to do a loading screen, they're still doing that because that is considered to be the way that you transition from area to area. Like, so it used to be that was a way to hide a loading screen. It doesn't serve that purpose anymore, but people still do it. I wonder if
it's just the semiotics of
So I wonder if the tailing stuff was done almost out of necessity. People kind of like realized like, yeah, these are no good, but we're still going to do them. Almost out of like a kind of an inertia. No idea.
Well, and at this point in the game, in terms of like completion time, you can understand the urge to spice things up and do something different, right? Like it has been a while since we've had a non combat or stealth focused
even in space
level. But I just really want games in a general sense to be less afraid of like a walk around, talk to people level. Like this could have just been a breather. I don't necessarily want a cutscene, but go undercover. Like there's a weird, there's one scene later where you go undercover. In this, but it's barely undercover. It doesn't really count.
Well, earlier we had the section where you were trying to find the entrance to the base when you were walking around in Germany. And like you were just trying to find people, and it had you going into bars and stuff. Like, I don't know. That was cool. I liked that.
More of that, less of this. This is frustrating, and it's never been good. Like there are times, whenever I say something like that, like, oh, this mechanic sucks, there's always like a bunch of people who pop out and be like, well, this time wasn't that bad in this game. I really would like the gamer proletariat to rise up and demand more than it wasn't that bad in this section. Like if you can find an example of something where it didn't really hurt, you're not saying as much as you think you are. For in a mechanic's defense, like it's a frustrating contrarianism that people run into. So this blows. It doesn't sink the game. Like I'm not trying to say this is a verbal flaw by any means. It just kind of blows.
And also it suffers from like the lack of feedback that all the rest of the stealth does, and even some of the navigation does, which is like, I don't know how far behind or ahead of her I should be. Like there were times where like, oh, you stayed too far behind. You failed because she got to a place where you couldn't see her. Like when I tried to get closer, I failed because I was too close.
Let me put a tracking device on her fucking coat. I am a spy. Give me a little handheld. We have the technology. So once you get to the outside of this, once you do this, get to the outside of the compound, you cannot cause an alarm because it will alert the Baroness. It's standard. Other than that, it's actually a little easier than I think the Man of Influence first level, but still, I don't love this.
In between the scenes here, Cate talks with this informant who says like, all right, we've got the service gondola that we can take by using a snowmobile. So this takes us to kind of that portion here. This ends up being a little bit differently. You've got like a time section because you fall into some water, or you can fall into some water. If you do fall into this canal, start the timer. You need to find a source of warmth before you freeze to death.
And then that's kind of fun. That is novel.
Yes.
For this. So you run down this kind of frozen canyon pathways until you reach a cabin. We get the scene break. And then once we get past this, we have the snowmobile ride to reach the service gondola.
Yes.
There are a couple of jumps. There are a few stops to weld-open padlocks. I like this kind of thing. Like a start and stop vehicle section. Half-Life 2 is fun to me.
It's good. Yeah. And now we're on to the last of the missions here. We're kind of in the run up here. Most of everything is going to take place here on the base in the Alps.
Starting the indomitable Cate Archer section. So we have to get the list of victims without drawing attention in the chalet. We start off in the machinery of the gondola house. Getting to the upper level to turn on the power for the lift is pretty tricky because there's a crawl space that blends in. Again, signaling being a thing in this, which is, again, not totally the fault of the developers. This is something that with greater graphical fidelity could help with. But it's still an issue when you're playing it.
Like the vent is in the corner of a very dark room. and because of the texture repeating, it ends up not being visible from most angles that you would see. Was the problem that I ran into. As you're sneaking, you get to a certain point, you get knocked out. Magnus is arguing with an agent again about killing Cate so she won't wake up. Magnus, of course, is not for murder. And the agent makes this pretty good point saying, oh, like you've got all this other blood that is indirectly on your hands. You blow stuff up, dude.
Yeah. All you do is, there's less blood because it burns away.
Yeah.
It's still blood.
Yeah.
This is also the point somewhere around here when we start getting the conversations where the sympathetic angle of the guards is really starting to make me laugh consistently.
Yeah.
They're talking about quitting. There's a lot of rival agencies that they mention. It's like very Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
Like, don't you work for Evil Inc? Nah, man. I used to work for them, but they have this horrible, I just started feeling bad about killing people, and I'm starting to feel bad about this. Like, what does this all add up to? And things like that. These very casual conversations. It's very good.
Love it.
Yeah. So later, the Baroness arrives, like you've been a prisoner, you're not murdered, and to interrogate you. And Cate immediately starts calling her out like they have a relationship.
Yes.
Whereas it kind of makes Cate seem like a creepy stalker.
Little bit, yeah. She knows all the details about this person, this stranger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. Who prior to the game, she did not have any reason to, suspect was evil or anything.
Yeah.
Just a person, private citizen, Baroness Dumas.
Yeah. But Kate's right. The Baroness says, oh, I don't work for H.A.R.M. H.A.R.M works for me. She wants to wipe out all these society people who drummed her father out of the high life.
It's a story about revenge.
Yes. Every one of these blue bloods I scrub out makes the world a little bit better. To me, they're less than lint.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
then, of course, she orders her servant shot for interrupting her. So, like, she's not necessarily, exercising good practice, saying all of these aristocrats got to go while also summarily executing the work or the help. Yeah.
So and this is where they reveal that the dart you got hit with had the explosive poison. The fuse was supposed to be set for 10 minutes, but they made a mistake and set it for 10 days.
Whoopsie.
So you have about 45 minutes to live.
Right.
So use Magnus to guard you, and you goad him into fighting by insulting his manhood.
Right.
In a previous cutscene, you've seen him fight with Wagner, and she calls him fat and calls him physical insults, and it didn't work.
Right.
So the idea here is like but is very upset about confronting his manhood.
Right.
So you need to goad him with that, and this creates a boss fight with him, which is a hand-to-hand fight in basically the GoldenEye engine. It's not the GoldenEye engine, but with basically the same tools.
Slappers. Yeah.
Slappers. Yeah, you go up and slap him. If you get too far away, he'll throw dynamite at you. The trick is he has a wind up. So you need to kind of step forward. It's like Kingsfield, actually.
Yeah, you have to goad him into attack. Yeah, and then get away.
Yep. There's also a little exploit here that I read about where you can, when he crouches down to attack, you can actually jump on his head.
Ooh.
And he will not know you're there. So you just point down and slap him in the top of the head because the AI is not trained to look up in this fight scene.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's very cute.
Never, if you notice that bug in your game, never take it out.
Yeah, that's good shit. And after you take him out, you're on good terms. He ends up being kind of your handler for the second game.
Yeah.
He's a breakout character in the second game, is my understanding.
But I also love that, like, because you got out, he needs to go get a new job.
Yeah,
like I can't stick around.
Yeah, he doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
He tells you where to get the list of victims.
Yeah, it's in a safe in the basement that behind this wood pile. So you do like a little bit more like stealth stuff. This section is pretty tough actually because you have to get your stuff back in order to open locks and things, and the enemies have automatic weapons. You gotta avoid being detected while crawling around on ledges outside. It's a lot, but once you do get it back, you end up you end up having to do this like timed mission to get to the antidote. After you get into the base, while you are belching the entire time.
Yeah, which I little Cate belches. I also like that you're finally in the Bond villain base where there are traps and stuff.
Yes,
which is cool. Like when you get to the lair, you had 10 minutes to get the antidote, but they like trap you in a gas chamber that you have to grapple out of.
Yeah,
to get deeper in. in between some cutscenes later, you end up on a death trap bridge. It's like the part of the Bond stuff that has been missing from this.
Yes. I love the death trap bridge where like the wall comes up with the sign, ultra low texture or ultra low detail because of the era, but it says you are now in harm's way with a smiley face.
Yeah.
And then it drops
as the bridge, it's pushing you off, the bridge is opening and there are sharks in underground. And these sharks are invincible,
yes.
which breaks the shark lore. But you have to swim to safety here. You get to this lounge and activate all this hidden gear by pulling this beer tap. Yeah. This gets you into the Baroness's offices where there is a button on a chair that opens the safe.
Has to be pretty frustrating if you want some beer and it turns out it's the lever to open all this stuff.
It's going to be an unpopular beer.
Yeah. Honestly, it's never come up. Yeah. But Kate goes in, finds the list of names on the safe, and she, we leave on a cliffhanger here. She says, "Oh, well, this is unexpected." She's interrupted. The Baroness and her guards barge into the room, and we need to flee. We need to flee her to her underground helipad to get out.
Yes. Which starts the section of very large explosion. The objective is to get off the mountain alive, and then attend to the name that we saw at the top of the list.
Right.
So as we're moving through here, this helicopter is flying around, shooting everything, and there's an announcement that say all coffee breaks have been postponed until the threat has been neutralized. Again, that evil as work.
Yep.
Venture Brothers steez.
Yeah. And this is where the board women are. They say finally some excitement. And they're going to come out and be periodic mini bosses here. And by mini boss, I mean bullet sponges. Yeah,
just one enemy who's with the other enemies that has more hit points.
Yes.
These are very weird. Like, I don't know why these weren't cut.
Yeah.
So when you emerge in the kitchen of the Swiss mansion, you get to the lobby and fight the first of the villain girls. It's not really worth talking about them individually.
No, they pretty much just shoot at you.
Yeah, they shoot and they take more hit points.
Right.
They take more damage. Pretty silly.
Yep.
But the rest of the level after you get through this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because you are in a big mansion full of crawl spaces and secret passages.
Love it. I love
that. That's sweet.
Like hitting a rotating section of wall, going through a crawl space, and just emerging in an ornate bedroom where people are, just like unaware that you're going to be there.
Fucking.
Like you, no, like you get the jump on people. It's good. It's fun.
Yeah.
I love this level. It's really great.
Yeah, this is really cool. Yeah.
You find a Unity agent near the entryway. Kate tells him, "Hey, take cover. There's going to be a very large explosion. Like this whole place is going up."
Yep. Once you get outside, you get this courtyard where you fight the other villain ladies. One is up close. The other one uses a sniper rifle with poison bullets, which is a pain. Lots of quick saving. You hop aboard the gondola and there are helicopters in the sky. Weirdly, the helicopters seem to be immune to explosions.
Yep.
Like grenade launchers and rocket launchers. I just Uzi'd them.
Yeah, I just shot the.
And
it was like, oh, guys, I'll shoot the pilots and then they'll go down. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that it models the pilot specifically. I think you just do enough damage to the helicopter object.
Yeah.
And it just goes down.
Who knows? Yeah. So, you are riding along here. Eventually, we get a cutscene. The Baron is singing to himself as he sits down for dinner. He's alone at this gigantic dining room table. Obviously, he's been a piece of shit this whole time. As he sits down, he belches, and then the whole mountaintop explodes. The Baroness has taken out her husband. She's moving into the end game of the plan.
Yep. The ultimate friend zone.
Heaven?
Yep. Heaven is the ultimate friend zone. The t-shirt idea. So you use this grappling hook to get down to ground level where you meet Volkov. He's here to kill you and take back the list. Right. But a tremor happens and you both fall into these icy caverns. You're separated by a chasm and do a boss fight from like a distance. Yeah.
You initially don't have a gun. You have to go across these like crumbly ice walkways, which felt very trial and error to me, to get to a revolver to take shots at him.
Yep. And of course, he falls in the chasm. You don't see the body, so he's probably still alive.
Probably.
Yep. And you think this would be the end, but of course we have a lot of loose ends to wrap up.
Yeah.
And such is the nature of revenge, which is kind of a theme.
Yeah, a little bit. It's as much as anything.
Yeah.
So it says like, hey, all that you have to do, all that's left is to report the good news of your success to command. Like you've got the list of names, you have, used the antidote, like it works, and you just have to call him. So Cate is in a telephone booth calling Mr. Jones, who cannot believe that she's still alive. Like everybody figured, okay, the entire amount went up. It'd be impossible for her to live. She's going to send in a telegram with a list of names so they can diffuse the plot.
However, the Baroness is there outside the phone booth and draws on her. She's about to shoot you, but you shoot her. And she says, I still have the satisfaction of knowing you failed. Know this little girl, harm will not die with me. And she burps, which is, that means scariness.
Yep. She's turned herself into a bomb. It is as angry as one can be to do this.
Yep. So you have to go rescue civilians by activating them, walking up and telling them to get out. There are 11 of them.
Yeah.
And you have to do this before the Baroness blows up. This is not too hard, this little runaround section.
Yeah.
But once you do, we cut immediately to your success. Everyone has escaped, and you're in the war room with Jones and Smith.
Yeah. And Smith, he apologizes. It kind of seems like he's come around on you, saying, oh, I have treated you very poorly. That's because, the stakes were very high. Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And Cate is like, is that it? This is how it ends. And Jones is like, yeah, like this is our job, is to save the world. But most of the time people did not even know it was in danger. So it's not like something we're going to get applause.
Yeah. You just have to get used to it. You put in your day's work and you shuffle off home and you take a drink and take a bath.
Yep. So we cut over to Cate visiting Bruno's grave the next day when Tom Goodman shows up. And this is like really good. I like this performance where he's like, you cost me a lot of money. Again, like rounding out the theme that spies are bad people.
Yes.
It turns out he's the traitor. He's like, I didn't even get a paycheck. Like I did all this stuff, because you blew up the person who's supposed to pay me.
Well, she blew herself up, but tomato. Yeah. And he says this really cynical thing, like, oh, don't get all high and mighty on me. Everybody has their price. And of course, because Cate is good, she does not. And they talk about the difference between a spy and an operative, which feels like a distinction without a difference to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it feels like a synonym to me. Yeah. But this is our final little boss fight with a duel between you and Tom in the graveyard, both using the same weapons. And he uses the bullets that make you hallucinate goats.
Yes.
Floating goats in front of you. They look like the figments that you get in Psychonauts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But not too hard. You just really want to keep up the DPS.
Yeah.
When you're about to finish him off, he gets shot from a distance and falls into a grave. And who took the shot? Very convenient.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith.
Oh shit. He's here to help us.
Attending some unfinished business, but then he goes to shoot Cate. It's like, he was the spy, but then Mr. Jones shoots him.
Yes. Turns out the actual mole was Mr. Smith.
Yep. As was hinted towards and away from.
Yeah. No, he was a dick, and then he was nice, and then it turns out he was a dick the whole time. The Tom Goodman that we found, that's not the real Tom Goodman. Tom Goodman died in Amsterdam. The man we've been working with is a vacuum cleaner salesman from Akron, Ohio, named Melvin Blitzney. You will in the second game, you will go to Akron and fight ninjas in a tornado, which is weird to me. Also,
finally, Akron.
Finally, Akron, the city everybody knows of from Ohio.
Yep. Yeah. Home of Devo.
Yes.
And Bruno shows up.
What? He's alive.
There. Yeah. Smith is about to shoot Bruno. Cate shoots him. And Bruno basically explains what happened.
Yes.
Smith was very upset about being taken off active duty. He started worrying about his retirement and such, so he teamed up with Blitzney to set up a trap to kill the real Goodman and team up with H.A.R.M. For money, basically. Yeah. The Morocco job itself was a trap for Bruno and Cate, and Bruno had to fake his death and have it believable so Cate would react normally.
Which is a dick thing. That never has to be the case. Hey, Commissioner Gordon, fucking stop.
Yes. Yeah. And the reason why all these missions failed is because they were all traps.
Yeah, they were never meant to succeed. Yeah.
Yep.
The final piece of evidence that says, hey, we can conclusively pin this on everybody, is we found the H.A.R.M puppet inside of Smith's apartment, the one from all the videos.
Yep. Kate's very upset about this. Like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't we do anything sooner? And they have pretty reasonable explanations. Like, we didn't know. Like we weren't sure. The things that you did confirm things, but quite reasonably, we can't just like act on nothing.
Yeah.
Bruno says, you did seem very upset at my funeral, and she feels incredibly betrayed that he watched her mourn him over an empty casket, which is pretty dark.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the game. That's our little spy story.
Yeah. She chases him off.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to be further in H.A.R.M's way. H.A.R.M is not gone just because the Baroness is gone. Yes,
there is more H.A.R.M. Volkov comes back. There was a guy actually at a real little bit of seeding that's interesting because I was reading about the second game of this. A character who's in the background in a lot of these shots is actually the Master of H.A.R.M.
Yes, it's a drunk guy that you see in every level. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Some big shades of Gontro Dim.
Yeah.
In that, how he showed up beforehand. I love that shit.
Yeah. So, I think that this is definitely a game that is, that if it has, most of the problems that I have with it do feel like a problem with the era, the fidelity, the poor signaling, the stealth, not really giving you any kind of feedback, the instant failure, if an alarm is raised, like all of those things feel like they, it's baggage that is, loaded upon this thing that is actually really good and would have been good if it was made at a different time.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, most like the stealth is obviously the Vorpal, the near Vorpal flaw to this, but I also want to just like, put out a very specific reverse shout out to just the length, which is of its time. Like there are pacing problems with this that are not just us being whiny because we prefer short games.
Right.
It means, things, you'll forget about plot points. They'll be presented as being more important.
Yeah.
It's paced like a movie at points when in between scenes, you're actually just doing long portions of a pretty good to really good shooter.
Yeah.
And that, that's cool. I like the idea of mixing it up, but it just goes on for too long.
Yeah.
And that ends up just being, kind of a real problem. But like you said, that is of its time.
Yeah.
That's the 1997 to 2005 corridor. And we just did not know how long first-person shooters could support.
Yes.
At the time.
Looking at, aside from that stuff, though, I think the level design is fucking incredible in this.
Yeah. I like it significantly better than I like the level design in Fear.
Yeah.
Which, like, we talked about that recently, where I feel like that's just a lot of office buildings. I think by making you kind of globetrot through this, it feels more like Blood, but a more successful version of Blood. Like Blood, you're like doing like haunted, amusement parks and shit that feel really cool, but it still has that abstract of space that comes with like the Doom generation. This, it feels a little bit more realistic, and you get a really great variety of levels.
Yeah.
There are only a few of them that feel like they are, generic, or just kind of devoid of incident, and that really dovetails well with the fact that this should have been shorter and could have used an editor. It ends up feeling like it has the plot of a season of a show almost.
Yeah. There's like little arcs and stuff that happen.
Like you rescue Schenker twice.
Right.
Like that's weird. But the level design is really good. The actual retro shooting, like gameplay, is really fun.
Yeah.
Like it's snappy, responsive. The weapons feel good in your hands.
Enemy behavior is really fun and entertaining. Yeah.
And the writing is good. Like the actual story, the plot itself is not embarrassing. The dialogue is uniformly pretty good, and there are a lot of laugh out loud moments that we didn't cover necessarily. For me, largely because I didn't catch them because I was bad at the stealth.
Right.
But watching the YouTube, that's the compilation of them. I'm like, oh yeah, this like actually is pretty special.
Yeah.
This is really neat. It made me curious about the second one, even though we're doing marathon soon.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ruin my appetite, for shooters, but it did make me curious about the second one.
Yeah.
Which is apparently lots of improvements.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, this is good. I'm happy we finally managed to cover those.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks,
Joe.
If you have anything to say about No One Lives Forever, or anything to say about Uncharted Waters 2 or Marathon 2, Durandal, hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact by the 15th of November.
Yes, and if you have anything to say about December's games, which are going to be Dragon Age 2, the associated DLCs, and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, that deadline is December the 15th. Wow, that is coming around soon.
It's very soon.
Yeah.
Duckstream announcements will happen at some point.
Yeah.
We're like past the point where we would have gotten past PRGE in a normal year. Or PR, yeah. And so we'll start talking about that at some point soon. That will probably be less of a slumber party vibe and more of a virtual vibe.
Yeah.
Because we lost a year.
We did.
At least a year.
They took it from us.
Yeah, that we lost probably 2 years. It's very weird. So the announcements will now come up soon. If you would like to sponsor an episode, you can. We are booking into kind of end of first quarter of 2021. You can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Get a lot of things for that. Entire other shows, episodes early, just a plethora of benefits, access to the Slack, the fun message board. And one of the shows you can get early is our brand new show, Orb.
Yeah.
We mentioned that multiple times during this because it is kind of associated subject matter. That is our episode recap series about the Venture Brothers.
Yeah, it's a good time. And we think you'll enjoy it. Go check it out at orb.show.
Yeah. And then ratings and reviews on Apple Podcast or wherever you find your podcast are appreciated.
Please.
Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
So until next time, what should they do, Cole? What should they watch out for?
Watch out for flatulent people.